Welcome to the place where dreams come true, where everything you want can be yours, if and only if you're willing to work for them, you're willing to hurt for them, but most of all, you're willing to be first for them. Look, I'm going straight to the top. I don't know how I would stop, like it or not. I got some goals that I'm hitting. You hear what I'm spitting, it's hot. Look what I got, whole lot of passion and pain. The road to success is insane. Stay out my lane, cause I'm on a mission. I'm getting what stands in my way. Yeah, I'm a beast, I wouldn't play with me, baby. The way that I'm training is crazy, and I do it daily. You wanna talk about drive? I got more drive than Mercedes. I've never been lazy. I'm in the room, it's a red alert. You wanna compete? Well, get better first. I got 10 toes in the dirt, push through the hurt just to show them my worth. I'm the best. Yeah, I'm the best. I never stress. I know what's next. I'm who they test, like we playing chess. But I'm unimpressed, so now let me flex. Yeah, I'ma work through the struggle and hurt, cause I know my worth, and I gotta be first. Yeah, I gotta be first. Look, I don't want anyone's sympathy. I understand what it's meant for me. I give my focus and energy. If it's meant to be, then it's meant to be. But mentally, I'm undefeated. They hear that and say I'm conceited, like there's no reason. Like I don't beat them and come back again just to teach them that when you work under pressure, you reach higher measures. They'll try and bring you down, but you cannot let them, and only get better and focus on cheddar. Eye on the prize and you'll become a legend. Like, when I'm in the room, it's a red alert. You wanna compete? Well, get better first. I got 10 toes in the dirt, push through the hurt just to show them my worth. I'm the best. Yeah, I'm the best. I never stress. I know what's next. I'm who they test, like we playing chess. But I'm unimpressed, so now let me flex. Yeah, I'ma work through the struggle and hurt, cause I know my worth, and I gotta be first. Yeah, I gotta be first. They don't know what's gotten into me, how'd I turn pain into energy. Through all the struggle and hurt, remember my worth, and that's why I gotta be first.
it. I'm on the mission, snap any minute, casually winning. Stop tripping on me, stop dissing on me. Yeah, I got a dream, can't take it from me. My fire's burning, I'm always learning. Tell me where to go, man, I'm on a journey. Yeah, I can't explain it, I get excited. Keep it 300, King Leonidas. Strap in, cause it's gonna be a long ride. Working on me every single day and night. There comes a time when your worlds will collide. If it's holding you back, push it right to the side. Ain't got no time for no fear. I work too hard to get here. Ain't got no time for no fear. I work too hard to get here. I don't got the time, put me in, coach. I've been going hard, time to let it show. Everything raw, give it to me now. Let me have the spot, man, it's going down. Gotta get it here, I don't wanna wait. Take what I want, then I go train. Gotta get a win, I won't lose the game. This is my year, I ain't gonna break. Strap in, cause it's gonna be a long ride. Working on me every single day and night. There comes a time when your worlds will collide. If it's holding you back, push it right to the side.
On another level, I will never settle. Mind over matter, get the gold medal. On another level, I will never settle. Mind over matter, get the gold medal.
Ain't got no time for no fear. I work too hard to get here. Ain't got no time for no fear. I work too hard to get here.
On another level, I will never settle. Mind over matter, get the gold medal. On another level, I will never settle. Mind over matter, get the gold medal. On another level, I will never settle. Mind over matter, get the gold medal. On another level, I will never settle. Mind over matter, get the gold medal.
Ain't got no time for no fear. I work too hard to get here. Ain't got no time for no fear. I work too hard to get here. Ain't got no time for no fear. I work too hard to get here. Ain't got no time for no fear. I work too hard to get here.
Welcome to the place where dreams come true, where everything you want can be yours, if and only if you're willing to work for them, you're willing to hurt for them, but most of all, you're willing to be first for them. Ha! Look, I'm going straight to the top. I don't know how I would stop, like it or not. I got some goals that I'm hitting. You hear what I'm spitting, it's hot. Look what I got, whole lot of passion and pain. The road to success is insane. Stay out my lane, cause I'm on a mission. I'm getting what stands in my way. Yeah, I'm a beast, I wouldn't play with me, baby. The way that I'm training is crazy and I do it daily. You wanna talk about drive? I got more drive than Mercedes, I've never been lazy. I'm in the room, it's a red alert. You wanna compete, well get better first. I got 10 toes in the dirt, push through the hurt just to show them my worth. I'm the best. Yeah, I'm the best. I never stress. I know what's next. I'm who they test, like we playing chess. But I'm unimpressed, so now let me flex. Ha, yeah, I'ma work through the struggle and hurt, cause I know my worth, and I gotta be first. Ha, yeah, I gotta be first. Look, I don't want anyone's sympathy. I understand what it's meant for me. I give my focus and energy. If it's meant to be, then it's meant to be. But mentally, I'm undefeated. They hear that and say I'm conceited. Like there's no reason. Like I don't beat them and come back again just to teach them that when you work under pressure, you reach higher measures. They'll try and bring you down, but you cannot let them, and only get better and focus on cheddar. Eye on the prize and you'll become a legend. Like, when I'm in the room, it's a red alert. You wanna compete, well get better first. I got 10 toes in the dirt, push through the hurt just to show them my worth. I'm the best. Yeah, I'm the best. I never stress. I know what's next. I'm who they test, like we playing chess. But I'm unimpressed, so now let me flex. Ha, yeah, I'ma work through the struggle and hurt, cause I know my worth, and I gotta be first. Yeah, I gotta be first. They don't know what's gotten into me, how'd I turn pain into energy. Through all the struggle and hurt, remember my worth, and that's why I gotta be first.
They've played all year, countless hours grinding, tons of different modes, all sorts of stuff, and now they try to vie to be the champion. Juicy J, what's easier, to be there by yourself or to go in 2v2 with a partner?
I feel like you'd rather be going in 2v2 with a partner. I've tried playing by myself in 2v2 on two different devices. It doesn't work.
Minnie, what do you think is the more skilled mode, duel mode or mega draft?
Does it matter what I think?
It doesn't matter what you think because we're playing both of those today. This is the Snapdragon Pro Series and it starts now.
Till a player on top, know it. Rooftop, penthouse, suite. If you really want it, gotta own it. Fight through it, we was at the lowest. Blood, sweat, tears, the components. Riding all year, now's the moment. We are not friends, we are opponents. Yeah, I'm coming for mine. Yeah, I'm making a play, the game on the line. Yeah, I've been on the grind. Yeah, I jump in the spot, I made it my time. Yeah, look in the sky. Yeah, the stars align, no shade to shine. Can't stop it already, emotional work and devotion. We put in this time, look. You won't stop.
Hello and welcome. I'm Rich Slayton, joined by Jackson Juicy J. Wall, the World Cyber Games champion and CRL World finalist Mini, to bring you the Snapdragon Pro Series powered by the Samsung Galaxy Grand Finals. We have 8 teams who have battled it out throughout the year for a chance to compete for our big prize pool and the chance to be named the Snapdragon Pro Series champion. If you haven't yet, follow us on all social media at ESL Mobile or at ESL_mobile if you're following us on Instagram. And of course, to get on the action yourself in Clash Royale and tons of other mobile titles, go ahead and join us on the Discord, discord.gg/Snapdragon Pro Series. This is the era of everyone, so everyone can most certainly mean you. You can get in on Clash Royale, Brawl Stars, Clash of Clans, and a bunch of other titles that keep on happening here at the Snapdragon Pro Series. And of course, speaking of getting in on those titles, we have 8 teams who've made it through all the way to our grand final today. And Juicy, throughout the year, they have played Mega Draft, they've played Duel Mode, they've played 2v2, but today we mix it up just a little bit.
Yeah, today the format is best of 3 of best of 3s. First of all, you have that best of 3 in the duel mode. One of the players in the team will do that. Second match is the Mega Draft. The other player on their team will be playing the Mega Draft set. And if it needs to go to the tiebreaker, both of the players are going to come together and play some 2v2 against the other team for the best of 3 series.
And that's one of the fascinating things about this competition overall is that this does require a bit of versatility, a bit of figuring out who goes where. And many, talking about these teams, we have 8 squads that should have both the versatility and the synergy to compete in dual mode, mega draft, and then 2v2.
Absolutely. We got a stacked bracket here today, Rich. We got Thrill and Titan facing off against Faust and Doom first round. That's a stacked one. Surgical and Vtor, one-time winners of the 2v2 competition here at the Snapdragon Pro Series, taking on Pedro, who's coming on at Worlds with, of course, Sub, who's been on a roll here. Wallace and Toes taking on my personal favorite LeBron James team of Bob the Rock and Sosa. And then as our last quarterfinal match, we have Firkin and Adnan, a very stacked team, versus the guys who have already won it here at the Snapdragon Pro Series, Lucas.
And if you haven't yet, take the chance right now to subscribe to this channel and turn on notifications because this is a 2-day competition. Today, we are just seeing our quarterfinal matchups. As you'll see the 4 matches on your screen right now, that's the order they're taking place in. These will be the matchups we see today. Tomorrow, we're back, same time, same place, with the semifinals and the grand finals to see who will be our champion and get the biggest chunk of this overall prize pool. So 2-day event, 4 matches today, the rest tomorrow, and it's going to be an absolute banger. Juicy, looking at those matches we have today, is there one that stands out to you as the marquee matchup on this beautiful Saturday?
I gotta be picking Surgical and Vtor versus Pedro and Sub. Like Minnie said, Pedro just got number 2 at the World Finals most recently, and Vtor also a Clash Royale League veteran, going, both teams really stacked. They've done quite well in the Snapdragon Pro Series before. And I honestly am hoping that it goes the 2v2 set as well, because Vtor and Surgical, they have some perfect 2v2. I love watching them play.
It would be really fun to see that go the distance. Minnie, same question to you. What match do you have your eye on?
You know me, I'm just waiting to see LeBron against Moncos. Always on that LeBron James train. If they can go far, I'm happy.
Well, let's see what they are playing for today besides the honor of being the Snapdragon Pro Series Season 4 champion. Yes, $10,000 in prize pool on the line, the biggest chunk of our prize pool for this overall season. Of course, just making it here, the team splits $500, but every single match that you win, you double up with our grand champion splitting $4,000, which is a nice chunk of change for the work they've put in throughout this year and, of course, on this gorgeous weekend. And if, again, reminder, if you haven't yet, follow us on Twitch, subscribe to us on YouTube, turn on notifications because that grand championship, that grand final, that $4,000 will be given away tomorrow when we do our semifinals and finals matchups, because today is the quarterfinals. 8 teams, but 4 of them going home today, and that's going to be all about those first 2 sets, starting with the dual mode. And of course, we already had our dual mode competition this year. It was furious, and it did have some surprises. And Juicy, in some ways, dual mode may have been a bit of a preview of upsets that we ended up experiencing at our Clash Royale League World Finals this year.
Yeah, Sub actually won the dual mode competition, like you said, upsetting Muhammad Light, and which is why I cannot wait to watch Pedro and Sub go together in this competition. And, Minnie, talk to us about the Mega Draft competition and maybe a bit of an upset that happened there.
Absolutely. I mean, in Mega Draft, we saw an absolute show from everyone. And at the end of the day, it was Thrill who really showed how potent he can be with those heavy decks, not having that cycle foundation that a lot of other players have, but he was really able to accommodate all of his picks in every single game to his tailor-made.
Let's take this back to duels for a moment as we take a look at the recap from our dual mode competition, where Sub was the victor, including a very big first round win over the 2022 champion Muhammad Light. And Juicy, as I'm looking at this, I'm seeing such a drastically different meta. I'm seeing Lava Hound, I'm seeing some decks that we've seen, but here, Minor Exy. This feels so different from what we saw at World Finals. Thoughts on why, even though Evos were out, this meta is so miles apart from what we experienced just a week ago?
Yeah, the biggest thing is not only the balance changes, which we'll get to later, but also the crazy cards that have been added to the game. You know, you mentioned Lava Hound. The biggest thing about the Lava Hound right now is that Little Prince and the Evo Archers got added, which really kind of countered that. And it also makes it so that the other Evos aren't getting as much light of day. You know, we see a lot of recruits in a lot of these replays here, but a lot of time Evo Archers are going to be taking that spot.
And recruits did, of course, get a nerf. We'll cover more of that later, but this certainly feels like maybe a bit more varied meta than the one that we saw at World Finals Mini during our dual mode competition.
Yeah, absolutely. Significant changes so far, and I believe we are going to be seeing a lot of the stuff that we've seen at Worlds this past weekend. Lots of guys so dominant and prevalent. We can expect to see it in the majority of these dual sets. And Evo Archers definitely taking the cake in terms of that, which is the best Evo competition. They're so dominant, so deadly from afar, and we can expect to be seeing a lot of that today.
Now, on one side, we have dual mode where the meta might be similar to our World Finals, but then we go into another mode that has no meta. And my favorite mode in the game, like people ask me all the time, Rich, what's your favorite deck? And I say, no deck is my favorite deck because Mega Draft is where it's at. No meta, come out, make your picks. And Juicy, I got a little chuckle from you out of that one. I really enjoy seeing Mega Draft played competitively, and of course our Mega Draft competition this year was thrilling with a winner who nearly made it to World Finals this year.
Yeah, Mega Draft in Thrill, like we said, he did a great job of playing to his strengths and making those beatdown-esque pushes with the Goblin Giant and with, you know, Golem, or just even like Giant Balloon and stuff like this. And I think that kind of strategy is what's going to be working in today's competition as well. You know, recently during the World Finals, there was also a Mega Draft Global Tournament that happened. I played in it a little bit when I got back home, and really the meta was about picking the Goblin Giant almost first play, making super spammy decks. Minor Poison, as we saw at the World Finals, just not as consistent and not as good as it was in normal competition in the dual mode, but also in Mega Draft.
Now, many, you know, thinking about some of this Mega Draft stuff, one key feature of Mega Draft that you're seeing there on screen, but also maybe even more important in light of our previous conversation, Evolution's not a part of the Mega Draft system. Maybe they will be eventually when Evos become more, when there's more of them. They'll have to figure out how you choose which card will be your evolved card. I don't know how they're going to do that. But how much does that change the way you play the game with Evolutions not being a part of this?
Absolutely, it changes so much because players taking an Evo, revolving around that to be a major component in winning the game. Now that that's taken out the window, they kind of got to throw it back to around a year ago when Evos weren't in the game, and really maybe incorporate the champions into that 3-card cycle and just play different Clash Royale than we're used to seeing, because there's not an overpowering component of Evos in the game.
And I think that that does bring up an interesting note here to say about a year ago. Evos are only a few months old, but it feels like it's been forever. Evos introduced, you know, mid-late summer, and now it feels like they've been here forever. And maybe that's brings up our next conversation. Some of the balance changes we experienced right before World Finals that look like they're going to be the last balance changes of the year, except for, please, for the love of God, can somebody nerf the Goblin Giant? But what we have right now, the most recent changes, the slight buff to the Evo Skeletons and to the Evo Bats, and we kind of surprisingly saw some Evo Bats during World Finals, and then nerfs, and 3 key nerfs that really needed to happen before Worlds: the Evo Knight, the Evo Recruits, and the Little Prince. And Juicy, it really feels like the only of those 2 that really got dramatically affected was the Evo Recruits. We saw a ton of Little Prince, saw a decent amount of Evo Knight, but those Evo Recruits, we barely saw them appear during Worlds.
Yeah, I mean, I think that makes a lot of sense as well, because without that bonus damage, really they're just normal recruits as long as you are placing cards close enough to prevent those charges. And on the other hand, we also saw the Little Prince nerf, whereas you said it didn't really get affected in a way that it's still the best champion. I think that's the other thing that we are going to be having to look at a lot in the Mega Draft set, especially because, like we said, there's no evolutions in the Mega Draft set. And when it comes down to it, there's really 2 champions to really look out for. The Little Prince, because it's the best, it's cheap, it allows for a 3-card cycle, but also the Monk, because it counters the Little Prince, and in certain boards, it can get a lot of value.
We did see, you know, the Monk a big rise of Monk during Worlds as well. And we'll see if that continues along today. Again, expecting a very similar meta to World Finals, but who knows what these guys will come up with. Maybe some people are tired. Maybe someone's cracked the code of what you do about Goblin Giant to not get raged all over. We saw Goblin Giant bowler Mega Knight in one game. That was a game that happened at World Finals. So
yeah, unfortunately.
Unfortunately is a great way to put it. Mini, we've had some thick champions, some 5 elixir champions. We've had some 4 elixir champions, a 3 elixir champion. Do you see a 2 elixir champion coming down the pipe?
I hope not. I mean, with Little Prince, decks cycle quickly enough, right? I throw a miner with Little Prince and Mortar, and I'm back to miner in 3 seconds. A 2 elixir champion, it means Riley's going to be throwing arrows at your tower every 5 seconds. So let's get something heavier into the mix. Let's switch it up. Throw me something spicy, something that doesn't spawn, something that dashes 5 tiles down the river. And yeah, let's get something heavier for the heavy RG players on the scene. You know?
And we are preparing for our first matchup, Inthril and Titan versus Faust and Doom. On one side, Inthril and Titan, 2 players who were certainly in the mix to make it to World Finals this year. Other side of things, Faust and Doom. Faust, who made it to World Finals, did get first rounded, had kind of a rough tournament overall. And then Doom, former World Finalist turned caster in German, making his debut on the CRL desk along Big Spin this year. So an interesting matchup here. And Minnie, I know we're going to be doing this matchup with Juicy, so I'm going to start with you. Do you have a pick here between Inthril and Titan and Faust and Doom?
You know, I think these teams are very, very even in terms of potential and skill level. I'm just going to go with Inthril and Titan based off what we've seen from them in the Snapdragon Pro Series. I feel like Faust and Doom have been a little bit dormant throughout these competitions. I know they had that spectacular run the first time around that they ran it, but it seems like they haven't gotten that team chemistry there for the second run. So I'm going to go with Inthril and Titan here.
Juicy, do you concur, or are you taking the pair of former and recent world finalists?
I think I gotta go with the recent world finalists. We talked about it on the desk at the world finals. Faust is a guy who's maybe not the best versus the best players, but when it comes to consistency to the not elite players, he does quite well for himself. So I'm expecting to see some of that today.
Well, let's go ahead and jump into our first match of our grand finals. Inthril and Titan versus, it's actually just going to be Titan and Faust kicking things off in our dual mode set.
Yeah, here comes a miner already with the Skeleton Dragons. Faust maybe using lava? Is that even possible? Titan looking quite good versus a potential lava here, though, with that Phoenix. And it's not going to be lava. It's a Prince. So a Mega Knight miner at the bottom from Titan using, who knows what, some sort of beatdown deck here, maybe Electro Giant.
And Mega Knight in deep, miner behind, and this is looking like it's going to just be the Luminary deck as a double wall breaker connection does hit, and that is a ton of damage. But does Faust have enough with these archers? I'm assuming that there's a NATO coming right behind this, and there you go. They are gone. This is going to be a lot of damage here, Juice.
Yeah, E-Giant plus the Archer locking on. I think he's going to get quite a lot of damage, like you said, more than what Faust got on the right-hand side. 462 versus 1092. Both players kind of neglecting defense and going all offense, super aggressive. And that's kind of what the meta has shifted to be. It's not the control meta we're used to seeing in the Clash Royale League or in any competition. It is just blow for blow, attack, attack. And who comes out on top is whoever gets more towers at the end.
Of course, that has always been the case. It's who gets more towers, but it's how you get them that really has changed dramatically. And as you said, it has become a very offensive, very throw it all on the board and see what you can do meta. And I'm wondering if really this Luminary deck, the rise of MK Prince Miner, if that was maybe a kind of a preview of what we had in store for us. We had a cycle meta for quite a long time, and then this kind of rose up and became one of the dominant archetypes.
Yeah, I think that Mega Knight Prince does a great job of countering the cycle decks. but it also does a decent job versus E-Giant decks as well, which are pretty prevalent in the meta, as that Prince usually can get a lot of value. But played right, Titan can definitely make the comeback here, and that's what he's doing already. Tower's down to 174, and Faust does not have a big spell. So taking this right side tower out could be very difficult, especially with these Evo Archers on the board.
And there you go. Evo Archers survive. The Royal Ghost comes out. Gonna have to give up a little bit of damage on that right-hand tower just because of having to go high for the Evo Archers. Miner does get in. This Miner has a lot of work to do if Faust is going to be able to actually take it down. And it doesn't do enough. 37 HP, and Titan survives as Faust miscalculates a bit there in our final minute.
Yeah, one more Miner shot would have done it. Looking at the replay here, we saw Titan's ability to save Elixir and go E-Giant the bridge. I really like this play. He could have spent more Elixir, defended that Prince to the right-hand side, but instead he goes in and ends up paying off this Miner. It's being tanked for, or it's being helped for by the Mega Knight here. The arrows come in, but he doesn't have a small spell. He's just the single spell version of the deck, not able to finish off the tower. I'm sure maybe there's another universe where Faust won that game, but not in this one.
Yeah, not in this one indeed. So game number one, Faust goes with the Miner MK Prince wall breakers. So Miner out, arrows out. And with arrows being out, I know we have not seen as much of the Evo Firecracker as of late, Mini, but does that lead us to maybe with MK out and arrows out, does that lead us to maybe like a Hog, a Royal Hog's Firecracker construction of some sort?
Yeah, Royal Hog's Firecracker makes a lot of sense to me. Even maybe just a regular Hog Rider Firecracker. After seeing the log in Ice Spirit, you might be onto something here, Rich.
And Spirits both directions here. NATO out for Titan, so we'll see if Faust is maybe looking at that and thinking that he can go with something a little bit. And there we go. So we
what a prediction.
Have the Royal Hogs, thank you. I've done this once or twice. The question is, does the Firecracker come in, or is he going a little Prince here? Or, you know, this is what's crazy. We talk about little Prince a bit juicy, and there we go. Boom. Royal Hogs Firecracker. I went to the Jebba's school of deck picking there, Juicy.
Yeah.
So I've learned one or two things here. And Titan just going right up and down the line. Hey, your arrows are out. Firecracker gets a big buff. And Mega Knight is out. Royal Hogs get a nice buff. GG, well played.
Yeah, and he's got a lot of damage for himself already, and the defense was immaculate as well. Faust does have the bowler for the pigs here. He's definitely not out, especially with his King Tower activation as well. Here comes another round of pigs. Is he back to bowler? No, he's going to go for the goblins and the E-Spirit. But those piggies always seem to get some damage. Let's see if Faust can counter push. It's hard to do so, though, with this Firecracker on the board. Like we talked about, no arrows. And maybe he's got Fireball, but if he doesn't have Fireball, if he's got the Lightning version, this Firecracker is going to get infinite value in this matchup.
RG Bowler is super fascinating. And again, Bowler is one of those cards that has just gotten into everything. And it made a lot of sense, Juice, when we had recruits everywhere. Why do you still think Bowler is everywhere, even after recruits are nowhere near as popular?
I think that the bowler is just kind of being recognized finally as a card that gets a lot of value. I mean, we talked about it a lot at the World Finals. It's a card that's like a magic archer that can hit your opponent's tower without even crossing the bridge entirely, while also surviving rocket. So I think that it gets a lot of value in general. And as we've talked about in the B-Town meta, it's very good at kind of stalling and blocking lane as well, similar to a Sparky. So I think that's why it's in the meta. It counters a lot of different beatdown decks and generally gets solid value.
Titan running no champion here, it appears. We'll see. I'm assuming that's Earthquake as the final card. So that does change one little bit of math here, is the 3-card cycle you can get out of a deck like this one not available. So you're seeing Titan not quite having the ability to outcycle this board on the right-hand side that maybe he would hope. So now it's going to come down to playing great defense and making sure he does not get overwhelmed here. Bowler to that left-hand lane. Is this when Titan goes in? Yes, he does. Pigs in. One Fisherman there to pull. Barb Barrel trying to go to work here. has Titan overstepped? Has he overestimated how he can defend here? Is he about to give up a lot of damage? 2 shots in from the Royal Giant left-hand side, 3 shots in, plus goblins, lightning on the firecracker, bowler going ham, and just like that, Faust has taken the lead, and he might be about to put this one away.
Yeah, Bowler gets the last shot. All he needs to do is cycle back to one more lightning. Titan, desperation, pigs, guards at the bridge. But look at that Bowler, Barbaro plus E-Spirit combo. The defense was immaculate. RG at the bridge just to apply pressure while cycling to that lightning. He also doesn't want to allow Titan to get the lightning block here with the guards. He places the lightning in the perfect spot, dodging those guards there. Great try from Titan to block the lightning, but it wasn't enough.
That was, again, a very, very nice attempt, but I really think that was a pretty big miscalculation, the way he went in as hard as he did with the pigs on the right-hand side. And you see the pigs guards play, the desperation play, couldn't get it done there. But, man, we say this a lot, Juice. If I can read it, you have to guarantee that Faust can read it as well. And the pigs play countered very nicely by the bowler pick, Fisherman to get the King Tower activation, and then right when Titan went in, overspent a little bit, Faust punishes, takes the big win.
Yeah, the other thing is that macro decision to go for Royal Giants in the back rather than at the bridge. That's what really won him this game. Whenever you're going against a deck that's cycle-oriented with Royal Giant, generally you want to get that RG in the back. You want to play it more like a beatdown deck. And you know, Faust, one of the best Royal Giant players in the world. He knows that fact. Not only that, but he also did a great job of getting that dual lane pressure. There's only one Tesla on the board for 2 RGs. That's obviously going to get overrun.
And now taking a look at what they played in games 1 and game 2. Lightning, NATO, EQ, log, delivery all out for Titan. Poison still available, and Poison also still available for Faust. Little Prince also still available for both of these players. So you have a strong expectation that Little Prince will be making an appearance most likely on both sides here. And my guess here, Juice, is that probably Poison on both sides here.
Yeah, Poison, you know, it synergizes with a couple different decks. Minor Poison could be an option. Graveyard, Little Prince, kind of Splash Art, as we saw in the earlier days of the World Finals, as of recently, could come into fruition as well. But if it is a Minor Poison versus Splash Shard matchup, I would have to bet on Minor Poison. But Faust is going for the Evo Barbs and Titan with the Evo Recruits. So I think that I'm all wrong here. I did not go to the Jeebus school of deck picking, apparently.
Well, I would have probably read a very similar direction here from you. Faust going with Barbs, Little Prince to open things up. And Fish Boy out of Titan to pull the Little Prince into enemy territory and get it right off the board.
So Titan with Recruits, Fish Boy, Faust with Little Prince, Barbs, Tombstone. It is going to be Lava Hound here. And I really like this decision to just go Lava Hound right away as soon as we see that Little Prince. But Titan with the snipe. He's got the Inferno Dragon. That's exactly what he needed. I mean, what a play and a beautiful prediction. Look at this punch, and we see the Evil Barbs come in as well. Inferno Dragon is getting taken out by the Zap. You know, despite the Inferno Dragon, Faust has got that Zap. He's got the Evil Barbs on the board. Titan's got enough Elixir, but that Mega Man's locked on tower.
Mega Minion doing a whole lot right now. Plus, you get those Lava Pups working on the Recruits behind it, Tombstone to pick up. Evo Recruits are not going to get a ton here. They will get some, as Faust does have fairly low Elixir, so a little chip in here from these Evo Recruits, but not enough to really even the story. 10-29 on that left-hand side, and you get the nice read by Titan, and maybe the better read by Faust in reply.
Yeah, it's so interesting to see the mind games here. A lot of the time we see more arrows with in a lava deck, but arrows obviously not going to be available. And we just see Lumberloon at the bridge. Mega Minion plus Fireball. Titan has the Snowball, but I don't think that's going to get to the tower.
Yeah, kind of a desperation play here. And after playing a really, really smart game number 1, Titan with a couple of YOLO plays in game number 2 that just seem like they weren't quite it. And you were going to get at least one balloon drop here, probably just that, but death damage as well, 389. But the right-hand tower goes down. And again, you know, we talk about this back and forth big swing play style. That play style has to come with recognition of what you're facing, and Titan just went right in with the big swing into a Mega Minion, which was guaranteed to shut down his push.
Fireball going to take this left side tower down, and Faust is taking 2 towers, and he's got 2 healthy towers of his own. I think that is going to just be GG's. I thought that Titan was going to win this match after seeing Inferno Drag plus the Little Prince, but Faust with the zap, the really well-timed pressures, like you said, and just keeping track of cycle, knowing that the Snowball and the Little Prince are now cycle with the barbs at the bridge. I mean, it was just great gameplay from Faust all around, and that's why I picked him and his team for this best of 3. But like I said, or like we've talked about, it's not just a best of 3, it's a best of 3 of best of 3s. Next up, we have the Mega Draft set. So this set in this match is far from over.
And we'll have our Mega Draft champion in Inthrill, Titan's teammate, up against Doom here. So that will be certainly an interesting one to see if Doom can battle through everything and take the title of best Mega Draft player away from Inthrill early, of course, with his team already having one set in hand. Doom has a nice chance to take the win overall. But my expectation, and Doom is a fine player, Juice, but my expectation here is that Inthrill's going to have the advantage in Mega Draft. He seems like he has a little bit a deeper pool, if you will.
Yeah, and especially with how the meta shifted, it's kind of right in line with how Inthrill plays. I would not be surprised to see some early Goblin Giant picks in the Mega Draft and very beat down, throw everything everywhere on both lanes type of a play style from Inthrill here.
So it was a very nice performance overall in our set number 1, but we are going to set number 2 here in just a moment for our Mega Draft competition. And I know that Minnie's going to be joining us for that Mega Draft competition as well. And we'll be rotating through with all of these fun modes today. But so far, it's Faust, who, as we talked about before, is also really great against the B tier competition. And Titan is, and again, I say B tier respectfully, because if you're a B tier pro player, you're still better than 99% of people who've ever played Clash Royale. But when we're talking about these top 100, top 150 players, Faust is really, really great against those guys who are in the 20 to 50 range. He crushes them. And we saw, I think, some of that consistency against some of the wild play of Titan. And now we're going to invite Minnie on to join us for our Mega Draft competition.
Here we go. All right. Looking at the board, Rich, already no Little Prince in draft. That's huge. Going to bring a little bit of a change in what we see. Big spells for both players here in Lightning and Poison. Inthrill starting off slow, and Dom taking the Poison right away.
And this is a thing that we encountered last time. I really do think that they need to remove the pump entirely from the Mega Draft pool. It's Mega Draft has gone through a lot of things overall. I think pump being in Mega Draft is one of the things that, if they could fix that, it would dramatically improve this mode. Maybe the final piece.
Yeah, I mean, he's playing this pump right into the Poison, which is just bolt. I mean, he assumes the fact that this pump is going to get poisoned every time, but it's still going to be a +1 trade every single time, and he's going to be revolving around this every time. So maybe with this poison, he can pick out other troops that are going to bait that poison out and look for that pump advantage. And that's one right there.
Going for the Archer Queen here. Doom might want to take the delivery, but if I'm Inthrill, I'm picking something here. I'm trying to look at Archer Queen counters, get them off the board. No Monk available. Gets the mini P.E.K.K.A. My expectation here, Doom already has 2 spells, so it's a nice pick by Inthrill, knowing that Doom probably doesn't want to run triple spell here. But as I'm looking at all the possibilities, Minnie, I'm not seeing a bunch of other great options besides Lightning, which you don't want, and the delivery as great counters for this Archer Queen.
Yeah, he definitely doesn't want to triple up on the spells. It's an option. It's something we've seen in Mega Draft before, especially with this just going right in as Inthrill. Seems like Dom hasn't done the best job at accommodating Inthral's deck to the point where Inthral's just picking up. Like, this looks like a standard deck that you could see from somebody in top ladder. And Dom looks like he's going to go the graveyard route. It doesn't look good for him. There's just not really anything for the Sparky when it's going to be behind the Goblin Giant.
The Electro Spirit might be able to help a little bit. Guards could be okay. Snowball, Zap, the spells here for Inthrill. And Doom going Loon, recognizing the Snowball Archer Queen, and Inthrill picks Archers as that last pick. So Doom trying to make a little move there at the end, but then Inthrill with the key pick with those Archers at the end.
Yep, Archer's going to be a great cheap answer for that balloon, especially since there's no arrows or fireball to get rid of them. It just really seems like Dom's going to be fighting an uphill battle. What he does have in favor for him is going to be this Goblin Hut. He's going to have to try to keep that alive and get elixir advantages that way, and ultimately just try to take the tower in one push, because Inthrill can defend with an Archer Queen. Archer Snowball, or anything with Snowball, is an extremely good defense against that balloon. You love to see Snowball against Balloon, and he just has to try to take the tower in one, because I don't think he's going to get multiple connections to tower across the duration of this game.
Electro Spirit absorbs the first shot. Royal Ghost working on the right-hand side. Goblin Giant going to be behind the Sparky here. This is good for Doom as he sets up the Goblin Hut, although he Goblin Huts and gives the Sparky a chance to get behind the Goblin Giant.
Yeah, I mean, this is what we talk about. This is already going so downhill for Dominic. There's nothing he can do. This bar barrel goes down, Sparky gets a shot, and there's no cheap cards, there's no logs, there's no elixirs to really take care of this push. Already 1-0 in towers for Inthrill. It looks like it's going to be the 3 crown.
And Mini P.E.K.K.A. Inthrill doing what he does very well, crushing it here in Mega Draft. Game number 1 his direction, and we should be jumping back into our picks here fairly quickly, as again, players don't have to prepare decks because we're just drafting, and this was the story. You talked about it, Mini. No real great ways to reset, no small spells, no knockback, an Electro Spirit, but the guard's already out of cycle. GG, well played, easy does it.
Yeah, there was, I mean, if Dominic could have gotten that to double elixir, he would have been able to maybe get his E-Spirits and cycle together and maybe play his Ghost on top of Sparky, top of the barbell for the Archers. But even then, it's like, you need perfection, or that Sparky gets a shot on something and everything goes wrong. Inthrill just looked like he knew what he was doing from the get-go. Sparky and Goblin Giant in one pick after Dominic has already picked 2 spells, not giving him a chance, really showing what took him to be the Mega Draft champion.
And that's interesting, right? Because now we're seeing the same meta that was a problem in duel mode rearing its ugly head here in Mega Draft. And if you're not going to be picking the Goblin Giant or the Goblin Giant Sparky direction, that feels like that needs to be a pretty big thing that you're focusing on, having at least a couple things to counter or hedge your bet in your deck picks when you're looking at a board like this.
Yeah, absolutely. It's something you got to be aware of and keeping tabs of. Honestly, this first one just really seemed like an outdraft from Inthrill more than anything. And Dominic, I feel like he needs to play more to his strengths as opposed to trying to adapt to what the draft board brings, because you just need to be confident in your picks and your interactions. When you give him the liberty to go Goblin Giant and Sparky, and you already have 2 spells, there just really isn't much you can do. He could have taken delivery and not had a win condition, but I mean, at that point, your back is already against the wall.
That's where things get really interesting, right? Do you go for a play where you're gonna just play defense and hope that you overwhelm the opposite direction, or are you trying to build something that has some level of coherence? And do you go for disruption, right? You see that Goblin Giant pick. Do you go, okay, well, I'm not going to let you have Sparky, and I'll figure out how to do something with Sparky? This is some of the weird challenges of having something so powerful in a game mode where you have to go pick by pick, piece by piece.
Yeah, precisely that. And I love that you mentioned disruption or playing completely defensive, because if he would have picked delivery or maybe double down with the lightning to lightning everything down, he's got a Mother Witch. He has ways to get something on the tower, and Inthrill had no big spells, so maybe that would have been the way to go in this one.
And here we go, jumping into our draft for game number 2. Already in progress here with 3 picks on both sides. Inthrill picking the Little Prince, Log, and the Skeleton Dragons. You can see no Sparky on the board here. Goblin Giant available. Doom looking like he's building a Royal Giant deck. And so here's the question, right? Do you, if you are Inthrill, snake the Royal Giant and not let him build the deck that he's building towards?
Definitely could be a viable strategy, the disruption that you talk about. Looks like he's just gonna double down on the DPS in this one. He's got a Little Prince, he's got a Mini P.E.K.K.A. Dom picks up those skeletons. That's going to be very useful for when he wants to pull that Mini P.E.K.K.A. away from a Royal Giant and distract the Mini P.E.K.K.A. with skeletons to keep that Fisherman alive. So smart pick there, also helps with the cycle. And I mean, Dom, if he does go with RG, does have to be careful just because of the overwhelm potential. There's no big spells this time around, only small. So it's going to have to be very, very careful picks here from both players.
Skeleton King still on the board there, has a lot of synergy in the deck that Doom is building, but the question is, does he actually want to go that direction? As my compatriot pointed out, maybe he goes Royal Giant plus delivery here to get a bit more coverage.
Yeah, could be. I mean, Inthrill, he's got everything out on the board right now. Last card is going to be a win condition. This is where Dominic has to decide of the route that he wants to go. He does end up taking that Royal Giant. I like it. Assertive as opposed to that last draft we saw. He knows what he's getting into. He's fine with it.
He does have the Fisherman plus Skeletons to contend with the Mini P.E.K.K.A. against the Royal Giant, and it's a bridge spam deck into those Zappies, which we'll see. I'm assuming that Doom here is going to go with a champion for the cycle. Skeleton King is the normal pick here. I can't imagine that he picks the Inferno Tower, and there you go. Skeleton King is the final pick. So picking nearly a meta deck is Doom, and an interesting variation on a bridge spam deck with the Furnace out of here for Inthrill.
Yeah, and this Skeleton King makes just sense because it fits into the deck, but Inthrill doesn't have a log, or no, he did have that log, but that ability is also going to be super important to pay attention to, because if you waste your log in single elixir, is something that we've talked about before, Rich, that can be extreme win condition, especially in single elixir.
And interesting, you know, I feel like I haven't seen much of that, although it does make sense. NATO into the Little Prince Guardian call, and that really wiped all that off the board. Little Prince is not going to get much out of it, but does give a slight elixir lead to Inthrill.
Yep. Slight lead there for Inthrill. Now he's going to set up with Furnace, and this is what Dominic doesn't really have any answers to. We know he's got those arrows, so they can come in towards the end of that Furnace's cycle. But until then, he's just basically going to be playing hot potato, answering spears. This Battle Ram's going to get a connection. However, this counter push is going to be very decent.
Yeah, a solid choice there by Inthrill, knowing there's nothing really that Doom has that could stop the push there. And look at that, Log, Little Prince, Mini P.E.K.K.A., and the entire counter push shut down.
Yeah, I didn't like the ability from Dominic. Inthrill had Log and Cycle, so it was kind of just, maybe he could have aired the Furnace and hit the there. And now as we approach double elixir, this Royal Ghost is going to go dark, so it might get a shot on tower unless it's picked up by something. Knight comes down for the pickup. And here we go. This is where Dominic has to make plays happen because Inthrill has the lead, and as we've seen already, that Battle Ram is a threat for Doom.
And you and I talked quite a lot about Royal Giant recently, and it does feel like Doom's doing the right thing, playing primarily defensive, but the real problem here, Mini, it seems he doesn't have the defensive answers he needs to maintain a close enough game to really take advantage of the Royal Giant late in this matchup.
Yeah, he's figuring out, he's testing the waters a little bit. That Mother Witch Arrows combo is definitely one that he's going to favor a lot because it's going to be able to get rid of the Skelly Drags and spawn Royal Hogs. He just has to make sure that he can get the Knight out of the way with a Fisherman and then maybe some Zappies behind. But he's testing the waters here, and he's starting to get a lot of damage back, whether it's with poke damage or some Piggies damage.
So here we go. Zappy's Mother Witch behind the Skeleton King. Piggies are turning the opposite direction to work on that Furnace. Royal Ghost will help get the Furnace off the board as well. Skeleton King ability is pulled, which is helpful, and now a Royal Giant behind all of this. Furnace not in cycle. And look at that. The log just takes everything out, and Mini P.E.K.K.A, while it was briefly distracted, now this turns into a huge counter push, and those Zappies are also distracted. A great NATO, and that should be, it is a connection.
Yeah, and the Skeleton King gets placed on the opposite side, allowing these barbs to get on tower. There's 3 Skeleton Dragons on board. Does end up taking out the Little Prince. Maybe you can get a Mother Witch here to spawn a Hog. Does end up getting the Zappies, but now he's got the added threat of the Battle Ram behind. Fish Boy is going to pull. Very nice placement to stop the charge, but it doesn't buy him enough time. Barbs are still on tower, and that tower is sub 500 HP.
And Doom with really nothing here, and Inthrill's done a great job of creating pushes where the Zappies and the Fish Boy are just completely irrelevant to stopping that Battle Ram. We've seen it over and over again where he's getting the defensive answers he needs down on the board, but there's something in front every time, and he has no way to get to the Battle Ram. So we'll see if Inthrill continues to keep that pressure up and goes for the kill here. Looks like he will. So now here's the big question is, can Doom stop this Battle Ram from connecting? For the moment he does. Royal Giant to the right-hand side, and Doom should be able to get another Royal Giant down. Does he double down on the right-hand lane? Does he go back to the left-hand side? 2 Mother Witches? No, he goes left here. Mother Witches plus Zappy plus Fisherman on the right-hand side. Another Fisherman on the left-hand side. Now just piling it on the right-hand lane as the Royal Giant keeps working on the left-hand side. Splitting the damage right now is Doom. Will this be the win? 12 seconds left. Skeletons to hold. NATO pulls everything together, and Doom trying to. Can he do it? Mother Witch working. Mini P.E.K.K.A holding, and nope, that's going to be Inthrill with the 2-0, and we are going to the 2v2.
Very nicely played there from Inthrill. Dom just, he had the right idea. It was just that one RG risk, the one that got cleaned up by a Mini P.E.K.K.A, Little Prince, and that just led to a massive counter push. You can't be doing that, especially when you don't have a big spell to fireball or maybe poison that bridge to shut everything down. That was really the downfall. Towards the end there, we saw him start to figure things out. He got a ton of damage on the right. He got a road down on the left. And Inthrill had to play his Mini P.E.K.K.A on the right. That's how stressful that push was and how potent it was. And it just seems like one of those just wasn't patient enough moments. Wanted to get that early damage with the RG. He got like 1 or 2 shots out of it, but in return, tower went down so much.
Well, and let's keep in mind that what Inthrill did very, very well was make it really hard for the defensive answers to do anything about the Battle Ram. He got repeated connections, getting the Knight in front of it, getting the Mini P.E.K.K.A out there, just getting stuff to clog it up. And the Fisherman was having trouble getting onto the Battle Ram, especially getting on the Battle Ram from distance, right? We saw it grab the Battle Ram once from very close, but still allowed a connection anyways. The Zappies were getting distracted repeatedly, and it was just a cloggy lane. It was kind of what bridge spam hopes to do, and in this situation, it led to a lead that I think forced out some over-aggressive plays from Dominic, trying to get some of those moments back.
Absolutely, and I love that you mentioned tying things up between the Fishermen and the Zappies, because that's exactly what Inthrill did throughout the entire game. We saw Zappies played against the exterior of the map and the Fishermen placed in the middle, and the Fishermen would lock onto the Knight in front and the Battle Ram would get to tower. Then we saw a switch up with that. We saw Zappies in the middle and the Fishermen played against the exterior of the map. Dominic finally gets the pull, but the Battle Ram still reaches the tower. So he was so fearful of that Battle Ram Knight combo that he tried to switch things up, but there was just nothing he could do. And I mean, the deck was just very well oriented against this RG deck, and we didn't really recognize it at the start of the draft. But Inthrill was able to play this so comfortably and understand exactly how to play the matchup based off of his drafts.
So now we take a look at the 2v2 set between Titan and Inthrill on one side and Doom and Faust on the other side. And, you know, I do wonder as we get into this 2v2 set, do you still have the same pick here? Are you still going to stick with the Inthrill Titan pairing as we go to our third and final?
I gotta stick with it. I mean, I'm rocking with these guys for a reason. Inthrill has shown up in his set. Titan a little bit sloppy, but going up against a guy like Faust, no shame there. But hey, I'm not one to switch up mid-set. I'm going with the Polish boys.
And I'm going to stick with my pick on Faust and Doom, if only because we saw Titan's tendency to overcommit during the dual mode competition. And if there's one thing we know about 2v2, with that elixir flowing so much more slowly, overcommitting in 2v2 can be an absolute death sentence. So I'm going to go ahead and stick with my 2v2 pick here between these two. But who do you guys think? Those of you watching, I see you watching on both YouTube and on Twitch right now. We are co-streaming to both of these locations. So who are you picking right now between this and this 2v2 final? Will it be Sraj? I don't even know how you pronounce Sratan, Srat, Inthrill and Titan, or the SKXMKers matchup of Faust and Doom? Let us know which way you're going there in the chat. We'll get a sort of an impromptu little straw poll going between you guys. And let's see. I do see a question from someone in the YouTube chat. Why did they not mega draft first game? I don't know what that means, but just to remind you guys, if you're just joining us right now, the format for this team's competition, our grand final with $10,000 on the line, is that we are going to have a best of 3 sets. First set is a BO3 dual mode. Second set, BO3 Mega Draft, and if necessary, as starting right now, our 2v2, and I'm going to hand the reins over to you, Minnie, as Juicy will be joining you for this third and final.
Here we go, and welcome, Juicy. We got our decisive 2v2 set here. Split archers in the back from Inthrill and Titan, and Faust and Dominic. Arrows in a Goblin Cage. Could be anything so far, but we know Dominic and Faust's tendency to lean towards Lava Hound in 2v2. What do you expect out of these guys based on what we see so far?
You know, I really just couldn't tell you. I mean, on the bottom, probably RG, but I just want to talk about how crazy this meta is in 2v2. There's no bans. And I'm just can't wait to see if we're going to be seeing Goblin Giants, maybe even Goblin Giant Skelly in 2v2. But right now, like I said, Roll Giant coming in from the Germans here, and this tower is getting dropped down below half HP. What a push! And this Phoenix is perfect for dealing with the Giant Skelly and the Boulder.
Yeah, and that giant skeleton pushing that Royal Giant. Something we haven't seen in a while since the early days of 2v2 in CRL, where giant skeleton was so prevalent. We're going to see a monk here. We'll be seeing an ability pop for this Little Prince. No opt to just let that DPS go. And do we see this Goblin Giant get too much damage? Not too much. Little Prince, Goblin Baller, and Rogo's doing a great job at the cleanup. And already, Faust and Dominic have left Inthrill and Titan very far behind.
So we saw in the duels mode and the Mega Draft mode, Goblin Giant dominating, as always. But maybe 2v2 is the kryptonite of the Goblin Giant. I love how Dominic and Faust have dealt with it so far. And the Roll Giant seeming to be the win condition of choice. Here comes another Goblin Giant at the bridge, though. Giant Skelly on the defense, long to stop this Little Prince charge up. A Fisherman trying to pull the king, but the Tornado preventing the pull. What a nice tornado, but it really didn't allow for much damage.
Nice ability there. The objective of that ability was to prevent that Little Prince from walking into that giant skeleton bomb, and now we see here the fruits of that, getting the monk to use its ability. Very nicely played there from Inthrill and Titan. And now we just see bridge battles, right? It's going to be who wins this, and then if once they get that clear break, they're going to go all in. Titan and Inthrill really don't have another choice.
Another interesting thing about the decks that we're seeing here is Faust and Dominic not really focusing on the Evos, just using the Monk, the Lumberjack, getting that Little Prince in the work here, and they're just getting that RG shot. I mean, this is a massive push. If they defend this, though, they will win the game, and this Monk is doing a great job, and so is that Log. I mean, it looks scary, but that defense was immaculate.
Really nice defense there. It's all stemming from that lightning at the bridge that hit the Bowler, Goblin Giant, and Little Prince. Really good series of events here. We see the Evo Archers for the first time around here. Instantly fireball down. Arrows and lightning will do it, though.
Yeah, I think that is what's going to be happening very soon. Titan and Inthrill are trying to keep applying the pressure, but we just need to see those arrows come down. The double Goblin Giant is scary, but the arrows will finish out this game in overtime before they're able to reach the tower. GG's. The German players are going to be taking out the Polish players in this game one. Looking at the replay here, you know, we saw just really good defense overall from Dominic and Faust, really relying on that Fisherman. I think the Fisherman was really the key of this matchup. They played it quite fantastically versus the Goblin Giant and those Giant Skelly pushes.
Yeah, I really like the deck choice from Faust and Dominic. RG, never really go wrong. Love the inclusion of Giant Skeleton. I don't really like the Goblin Giant pick in 2v2. We mentioned it, right? Is it the way to go? We know it's strong in 1v1, but I feel like in 2v2, there's just so much elixir to deal with it. In 1v1, you often rely on those Goblin Giant rages to clean up whatever elixir expenditure your opponent has. But it feels like it really didn't stand a chance against all the defenses that were lined up against it in this one.
The other thing about 2v2 with no bans is a lot of time we will see those Fishermans, we will see those Tornadoes, and because of that, we will see a lot of King Tower activations. And with the King Tower activation in 2v2, you get 2 King Towers to help on the defense. And what that means is Goblin Giant or any sort of win condition that has to get to the tower to do the damage is going to be taken out and influenced by that King Tower quite a bit. But the Royal Giant, it's never going to reach that area where the King Tower can help out. It just takes a few steps over the bridge and it starts taking pop shots. And I think that's another big reason why Royal Giant is so dominant in 2v2. And here we go. It might just be a Royal Giant mirror matchup. Dominic Faust running back the same deck. Maybe Enthroned Titan just copying their opponent's deck here.
Yeah, no hesitation whatsoever. RG at the start, no wasting time at all. Fisherman missed from Dominic there, doesn't get in the action, and this RG is going to be going towards the tower. Little Prince and Ghost will be able to take it out only after one shot. Giant Skeleton getting pulled all the way to the middle. Seems like the first exchange went Titan and Intro's way, and I feel like they're going to double down at the bridge here.
Yeah, and the other thing is now the Evo RG is going to be a massive threat for Dominic and Faust, as they did play it early on. But on the other hand, you know, we see this Guardian doing quite a bit of damage. Fisherman not able to pull it away from the tower here. And though, like we said, RG at the bridge, doubling down. Cage, Fireball, Phoenix, E-Spirit not reaching the Little Prince though. RG does not get the shot. Little Prince is completely charged up, wiping out the counter push. And he didn't get the damage, or they didn't get the damage, but look at the elixir change here. It's 8s versus 4s and 5s, and I think we're going to keep seeing this aggressive play style continue here. There it is.
Yeah, Monk in front, great job, is going to prevent ranged units from taking care of that. Phoenix Egg will respawn, Lightning comes down on the Fisherman, Monk, and Tower. RG gets pushed onto the other tower by the Monk.
I think the biggest interaction that we really have to point out here, though, was that Monk ability from Titan and Inthro. If that Monk ability would have gone down, that would have been so much more damage. It would have prevented the Fisherman from pulling the RG for quite a while. But great heads-up Lightning from Faust and Dominic, taking out that Monk before it had the opportunity to get that ability off.
Yeah, great call there. That Monk activation just went down a little bit too late. And now we're getting another reset here. Little Prince survives at the bridge, so it is going to pose a threat. Monk used to stop. Will we see an ability here to stop the Little Prince from going ham? Yes, we do, but that Monk's HP is already mostly down. Cage versus Tombstone. This one feels like the Goblin Cage is much more of a lightning target, and Tombstone, respectively, is an arrow log target. So both these buildings is always going to be spelled down.
Evo Royal Giant in the back, Monk in the back for Dominic and Faust. Now we're at a bit of a stalemate where both players are similar in HP. Wow, double Fisherman, maybe a bit of a mistake from Inthril and Titan, and Lightning value going to come down on everything. I mean, this is crazy bridge battle. We talked about it in the last match. The bridge battle in 2v2 is so important. Love this Monk ability though, kills the Little Prince, and I think that Dominic and Faust are winning this bridge battle here.
Yeah, that Monk ability somehow was targeting on that Little Prince. Really nice interaction there for Faust and Dominic. Logs here coming down. Both these players are taking significant damage to the tower based on RGs and spells alone. Now it's just consistent bridge battles, and there's really no real way or formula to win these bridge battles besides getting your Fisherman to pull whatever it is to the middle and just playing your DPS on the opposite side to avoid lightning value.
We see a big counter push here. The double Phoenix. The Flock is coming in. Monk ability deflecting the bowler shots back. Now is a great time for the RG. Rage up on everything from that Lumberjack as well. Log kills the Phoenix Egg. Slows down Little Prince. Little Prince does get the ability off. But this RG looks like it's going to make it here. And that is going to be GG's, ladies and gentlemen.
Wow, that was just like that in one push, all from that bridge battle that they won. Inthrill and Titan just couldn't get a grip there. You saw the Fisherman's being played to the middle in an attempt. This push was their best attempt throughout the game, but you mentioned that Monk ability that came down just a tad bit too late, playing a difference maker there, and just consistency from Faust and Dominic from start to finish to get them the dub.
Yeah, it was interesting to see them come back as well. I think what it really came down to was the really good Monk abilities from Dominic. We saw that Monk ability get a lot of value versus the Little Prince, but especially at the end there, deflecting that bowler shot backwards, preventing that splash damage to hit everything, allowing for the massive counter push. Also, I don't know how they did it, but getting the double Phoenix on the board was huge. Phoenix is a card that's very spell resistant, especially against the Fireball. Lightning can get some value versus Phoenix sometimes, but a lot of the time the eggs will survive when there's a lot of high HP units around, and they were able to just win that bridge battle finally after like what seemed like a straight minute of just attacking at the bridge with the double Phoenix, and there came the RG to take the win.
Yeah, it was an absolute back and forth, but in the end, Dominic and Faust figuring out the key to success. And I mean, what an opening for our first match, Juicy, going all the way to 3 sets. What better way to start off, everyone? We'll be right back with our second quarterfinals. Don't go anywhere.
The Snapdragon Pro Series powered by Samsung Galaxy is brought to you by Snapdragon Elite Gaming, Samsung Galaxy S23 Ultra, Monster Energy, and DHL.
Welcome back to the Snapdragon Pro Series Finals. Next up, we have my most anticipated match of the day. We have Surgical and Vtor going against Pedro and Sub. Many world finalists here. We have Surgical Goblin, the 2019 Clash Royale world champ. We have Pedro, who just got announced Rookie of the Year, number 2 at the World Finals in his first ever World Finals appearance. I know I said a lot, Minnie, but what are we expecting to see in this match? Who do you think is going to be chosen to play this duels set here?
I feel like both teams are going to send their world finalists to the duel mode and let the other ones take care of the mega draft. I kind of got that same understanding in the Thrill and Titan matchup where, in Thrill, he's good in mega draft, let him stick to his strengths. I feel like these players reaching world finals, getting such good places like Pedro and Vtor, let them stick to their dual strengths and we'll take care of the other sets. So probably going to be seeing Surge and Sub, who themselves respectively have done so much this year, have played such good Clash Royale, but just missed out on that world final spot by slim margins.
Yeah, so once again, if you guys are just tuning in, you do not know the format. It is best of 3 of best of 3. So first of all, we have a best of 3 duels format. Both teams have to pick one player to play a duel. And then it's best of 3 of mega draft. The other player didn't play the duel will play against the other team that didn't play the duel. While we're talking about this, let's hop into the first game here. And then finally, if needed, the third best of 3 in the best of 3 sets is 2v2, where both teammates come together. Hop into the first match. We see Pigs from Vtor and Little Prince Bats. Definitely going to be some Goblin Giant from Pedro here. Talk to me. Who do you think has matchup in this situation, Minnie?
What up?
This Pigs Little Prince deck is one of those that can deal with the spam of this Goblin Giant Fisherman bowler deck, but you do also mention it right there, bowler for Pigs. You can always defend if you're Vtor, but you really have to try to get those Royal Hogs in while defending, so Pedro doesn't have enough elixir for bowler, which against a player like Pedro is going to be super hard to do because he's always going to be aware and ready for that even when he's going in for the pushes. And he also has the bats and goblins to clean up, so you have to be very aware of when you're sending those pigs in if you're Vtor.
Yeah, the other thing is Pedro might have the Mega Knight version too. How does Mega Knight versus bowler kind of influence how this matchup is played out?
What up? Future King over
It
here.
really depends, because if you have your Mega Knight and Vtor doesn't know that, he sends all the pigs into one lane, then that's just a free Mega Knight gonna get value. Here's some damage though from Little Prince locking onto tower. Ability Pop did not like that ability.
Yeah.
But if it's Mega Knight and you get good value out of it, you can do a split lane push that's gonna be extremely damaging. And here we go. Do these skeletons multiply? No, they do not. Mega Knight Splash, making sure that doesn't happen. And now will we see a King Tower activation from Vtor?
No King Tower activation. We see delivery drop instead. Evil Bats to the bridge, taking advantage of the fact that delivery is out of cycle. Goblin Giant behind the bat support, and the Inferno Tower drops down. That's going to be really good for Vtor in this matchup, but at this point, I'm not sure it matters. Bats are still alive. Goblin Giant is trying to make it there. Everything's raged up, and there's a lot of damage coming through. Little Prince does his best to try to mitigate, but at this point, it's super hard for Vtor to come back and damage.
Yeah, and then you have situations like these where the Mega Knight is going to be played on one lane. You're going to defend the other, and it's going to have to be dealt with as it comes down the lane. And you're also going to have to deal with things on the left. So just an unfortunate situation there for Vtor, having that Inferno Tower go down and that Goblin Giant getting so much damage. We do see a King Tower activation here though, and a great Inferno Tower placement.
Yeah, great Inferno Tower placement, just like you said. But with that, the King Tower and the Opposite Lane Tower are not able to help out, and the Goblin Giant just locks on and finishes this game off in style. Pedro going to call the game, good game and take first set off of Vtor here. And we're going to the replay, and this is what really won Pedro the game. That's that early on damage. And then once again, great Inferno by Vtor, not allowing the bats to distract the Inferno. But at that point, the Fireball plus the Goblin Giant Spears plus the Rage is enough to just take that Inferno Tower down. So kind of stuck between a rock and a hard place for Vtor there in this game number 1.
Yeah, it felt like that Inferno Tower, while it is better than other buildings at taking care of that Goblin Giant, it was an extremely bigger fireball target as opposed to other buildings. And that fireball comboed with the spears from the Goblin Giant and then Rage maybe gets distracted for bats for 1 second. Just too small of margins of error there for Vtor. We saw him in the end scars for Elixir as he tried to punish with the pigs in the opposite lane, as we mentioned at the start of the game. But unfortunately, that Inferno Tower goes down before it can get that high fixation on the Goblin Giant. And it's what we spoke about in the 2v2 set, where in the 1v1, you can really get your opponent scraping for Elixir when your Goblin Giant push is going in. And that's exactly what happened. It seemed like Vtor was always needing another answer for the Goblin Giant.
Yeah, the other thing to mention there was just that understanding to go Evo Bats at the bridge once the delivery was out of cycle, and then Goblin Giant behind. I feel like most players would always want to do their Goblin Giant first and then the Evo Bats. But going the Evo Bats in front with the delivery out of cycle made it so that first Inferno Tower was not able to really lock onto the Goblin Giant. And that's what really allowed Pedro to win the game. And that's what really separates, you know, the elite players in Pedro from, as Rich said, maybe the B tier or the S tier pro players here. I mean, I would have never thought to make that play.
I mean, super heads up, and it just shows, like you said, why he is as good as he is. Here, though, second time around with these Skeletons and Snowball from Pedro. Could be a Mortar deck, could be a Hog deck. We did see him go heavy in game 1, so lots of open avenues for him there. And at the top of our screen, Juicy, it's already looking like we're going to be seeing that big green dude once again.
The big green dude. I like that one. It looks like we're not going to see in front of the Dark Prince here. That would have been wild. But instead, just Sparky in the back. Oh, but Pedro with the Monk. Monk going to be one of the best counters to the Sparky here. Interesting choice from Vtor to use Sparky Goblin Giant instead of the more meta Goblin Giant plus Mega Knight Goblin Giant plus Boulder type thing. Let's see if he's able to win despite this Monk here.
Right off the bat, it's that matchup where Pedro on paper has the answers, but there's just always that fear of that Sparky doing something that it wouldn't regularly do. We've seen Vtor have some unfortunate situations facing Sparky. I believe it was in the duels competition where a Sparky didn't go his way. And now the Vtor's like, if you can't beat him, join him, pulls out Goblin Giant, pulls out Sparky, right into a Monk, which can reflect it.
So instead of going for the Sparky in the back, he decides to start doing the Goblin Giant in the back. In response, we see Pedro going in for the Monk Balloon Phoenix at the bridge. Pedro's got the Fireball, he's got the minions. No pre-arrows come through on those minions, so he does defend. Is he able to make anything of this counter push, though? Doesn't seem like it, especially with this Phoenix just respawning here.
Yeah, it's going to be very difficult for Vtor to break through, but with these Evo Archers, I feel like he has more of a chance. Pedro has that bar barrel to shut down the one on the left, and he gets the protection on the one on the right. Doesn't go down completely. It is in snowball range, I believe. And a Fireball, ooh, with the Evo Skellies here, going to do a great job. Oh my god, they survived the Rage?
Yeah, they survived the Rage, and they do enough DPS to make sure this defense is solid. Wow, interesting play from Vtor here, just going into the opposite lane. Minor Arrow is going to clean that up. But all in all, after the dust has settled, Vtor's actually up damage somehow.
Yeah, somehow, some way, and I was expecting a bar barrel instead of arrows there, and Pedro was really trying to hold them off until the last second to try to surprise them in a balloon push to take care of the minions. And that's going to be a big difference maker because it takes down the archers and the minions. And with arrows and snowball, you can take care of the Eva archers. So very, very good spell picks here from Pedro.
Quick arrows, not quick enough. Egg does go down to the archers. And minions at the back from Vtor. Vtor's trying to make a dual lane pressure and be able to break through. We see the Goblin Giant, Mini P.E.K.K.A at the bridge with these minions, ready to take out the Skelly's Monk ability. Does pop, deflecting the minions.
Ooh, that's
but the Mini P.E.K.K.A, you said it, Mini P.E.K.K.A locking onto the bomb tower, but still somehow he defends. I mean, what a defense.
What a defense indeed. Miner gets absolutely wrecked by that Archer and Dark Prince charge. He's gonna start from the back once again. Vtor just really trying to maintain the damage lead. We're gonna see a Mini P.E.K.K.A block here at the bridge to prevent this from crossing. And Goblin Giant to protect as well. Very, very heads up play. Do we see a rage here? And does it take out all the scouts in this time? This time it does. Do we see arrows? Not enough elixir. Gotta dedicate it to the defense. And we see a Sparky in the opposite lane as well.
Yeah, and that is going to be Sparky locking on the left, the Gob Giant locking on the right. One more fireball is all that is needed to take this tower. And Vtor going to be taking game number 2. And we've seen Goblin Giant win both of the games here in this set so far, but it is duels formatting, so no Goblin Giant in the third one. I talked about it a lot at the World Finals. I feel like with the current Goblin Giant meta, it's almost like these duels best of 3s are best of 1s. Gob Giant wins the game number 1, Gob Giant game number 2, and then we see a best of 1 where there's no Gob Giant involved. Let the best player win.
That is a very, very applicable statement. I mean, it just seems like Goblin Giant's so overpowered. It's always going to get that win. It's not even a question. Unless you get a mirror match, and then, you know, Goblin Giant is still going to win. So Goblin Giant just always wins here. I mean, I know Rich is probably fuming in his seat after having to see 2 Goblin Giants in a row from 2 World Finals players outside of World Finals. He's probably like, guys, come on, stop. Do something else. And I mean, let's talk about the deck from Pedro. On paper, it had all the capabilities, but would going with maybe a different minor poison, maybe with some delivery, more of Pedro's style, have been a better decision? We just saw him kind of spread thin throughout that triple elixir.
Yeah, I think minor poison, especially that delivery for the Sparky, could have been something that could allow him to win, especially with how comfortable he is with minor poison. But you know, a deck pick is one thing. I want to talk about one other thing though in the gameplay there from Pedro. When that Sparky dropped in the back, I totally expected a Monk to drop in the back, same lane, but instead he just goes Monk Balloon Ops lane. I can't help but maybe think that was a mistake and what really cost him in this game number 2.
Yeah, and it was great heads-up defense from Vtor at the bridge, getting the Mini P.E.K.K.A on the Monk, letting the Monk hit the Mini P.E.K.K.A, but then when that Mini P.E.K.K.A gets pushed back, placing the Goblin Giant in front to preserve that Mini P.E.K.K.A's HP and allow that Monk to be dealt with. And by placing that Goblin Giant at the bridge, Pedro can't allocate elixir on the offense. He's got to focus on the defense. So it basically rendered his push useless.
Yeah, and the other thing, he just kept that rage and cycle for the Evo Skellies almost every single time. Dropping that rage, killing the skeletons, preventing the value, and then allowing that Goblin Giant to be rage going towards the tower as well. And then Mini P.E.K.K.A as well. I mean, like you said, predicting that Mini P.E.K.K.A at the bridge to stop that Monk from crossing was so huge because Mini P.E.K.K.A, one of the best counters to the Monk. It's single target, it doesn't get reflected, and it can basically like 3-shot the Monk when there's no ability involved. Great way from Vtor, from realizing the strengths in his deck and utilizing those. I think we only saw 2 Sparkies that entire match, realizing that the Monk could get value versus it.
Yeah, definitely played to his strength there and was super wary the entire time. If he played it, you know, a lot more casually, not really worrying about the Monk at the bridge, could have been a very different story. But heads up stuff from Vtor. He was so quick to jump into that game 2 with Goblin Giant. It was just like, you know what? I'm angry now, so take this. I'll use it against you. But now, game 3, like you said, best of 1. No Goblin Giants. Let's see who's going to take this set.
Here comes the Hog Rider. Vtor defending with Goblins. Will the E-Spirit be enough? Well, I guess we'll never find out. Probably wouldn't have. A Snowball going to stop this Hog Rider shot, though. And maybe we're just seeing a Hog Rider mirror matchup. There it is. Hog Rider coming in from Vtor as well. Tesla from Bedro. I love the Tesla pick here. Tesla, one of the best counters to Hog Earthquake because you can play it in the spot that we just saw, which prevents the Earthquake from hitting the Tesla and the tower at the same time.
Yeah, very, very useful in terms of the placement of Tesla, but Vtor is going to be looking out, playing maybe high firecrackers, maybe high buildings of his own to take care of that. See a Mighty Miner coming out for Pedro. Not only does that fare well against the Knight, but it gives Pedro a 3-card cycle that when we get into double and triple elixir, we're going to see Hogs flying, as opposed to Vtor, who has a quick cycle on his own, but he doesn't have the comfort. Oh my god, why am I talking? Pedro just missed the building for the first time.
Missed the building, but also missed the delivery on the firecracker, and there's so much damage coming through. Tower's down to 1780 already. And you know, you talked about the advantage of the Mighty Miner in the 3-card cycle, and I think you're so right, but whenever you get in that situation versus the Evil Knight, where you don't have your Mighty Miner in cycle because it is a champion, and that Evil Knight is tanking for the Hog, it makes the defenses so difficult, especially with how well spaced the firecracker was away from the push. The delivery simply was not able to hit everything, and Vtor now, all he has to do is set up some good defense, make sure not to make a similar mistake as Pedro has just done, and try to find a way to deal with these evil archers.
Poison.
Whoa. Double poison.
Poison for both. It's almost like both these players play for the same team and have the same coaches, and you know, they just have their own preferences here in duel modes. I don't think I've seen a Hog Poison mirror matchup in such a long time, and I mean, we talk about the benefits of the Tesla, but the drawback of both players having poison kind of negates Pedro getting that benefit.
Log has to come out onto this Hog Rider as well. I think if there's one thing that Pedro can do to win this match is abuse these evil archers, though. And it's going to be hard to do that, though, as Vtor is doing a great job of using that poison to deal with them having the delivery. Or sorry, no. Pedro has the delivery. Vtor does not have the delivery. But these Hog Riders are the real threat.
Wow. Gets 2 shots on tower, and I have not seen Pedro this like uncomfortable and out of his element in an extremely long time. You're always used to him in, you know, a hard defense. Yeah, so what? It's Pedro. He'll do it. But it just seems like the pressure that Vtor is being able to mount here. Look at this, like this snowball, another Hog connection on tower.
Yeah, you said it, the snowball being a mini freeze, slowing everything down, taking out the Tesla. Hog Rider connects, and Vtor here with a reverse sweep in the duels set. I mean, looking at the replay here, this is where he won the game. He had that perfectly made push, and the Tesla misplaced from Pedro. Pedro tried to come back, but I think without the earthquakes on the board, I think the bomb tower in Vtor's deck here was actually the better card to have for the defenses, because it is able to splash under the Hog Rider plus Mighty Miner. And on the other end, when Pedro's using that Tesla on defense, when that Knight or the Evil Knight is in front of the Hog Rider, which he always did on the attack, really well played from Vtor in that way, it made it so that the Tesla is obviously not able to splash on top of the Hog Rider and the tank. It's only single target. So great change in the deck there in the building. I doubt he predicted the poison there, though. I mean, just what a weird game of Clash.
Yeah, I mean, at the start of the match, I was already looking at the E-Spirit versus Ice Spirit, and I was, you know, giving Pedro some benefits just because they'll be able to stun the Hog more on defenses. And then Tesla's brought from Pedro, Bomb Tower, and then Poison from both guys. Then you have the Knight versus Mighty Miner. Just so many moving parts, and I loved your assessment that you mentioned. Yes, Pedro has a 3-card cycle, but the drawback of that is that he can't place multiple Mighty Miners on the board and can't always have it for the Knight. So many moving parts. It's what makes Clash Royale oftentimes so difficult in such a complex game. And I mean, Vtor just saying that he should have been the one to play Mugi in World Finals.
Yeah, Vtor taking out Pedro here in the duel set. Just want to remind you all, though, we are heading into the Mega Draft set next. This game this match between these two teams are not over. We're going to be seeing Surgical Goblin versus Sub TM in the Mega Draft set. I know it's on the spot, but any predictions on who's going to be winning this Mega Draft set here, Minnie?
Let's see. You got Surge versus Sub. It's so close, especially because Sub, I can't think anything negatively of Sub because he's just done exceptional, especially in these past recent months as opposed to the first half of the year. Then you have Surgical Goblin with so much game knowledge, so much traction since the early stages of the game. I feel like just because of that, he's got to have maybe some more better deck building abilities when a pool of cards is presented. I'm going to go with Surgical here. It's a close one for me. I'm going to go with Surge.
Yeah, I think the other thing to mention here is just how powerful the Goblin Giant really is. You know, I'll let you guys talk about it. I'm going to be heading out. Welcome back, Rich, here for the Mega Draft set.
Very excited to be here for this Mega Draft and seeing the log be the first pick with Lightning, Rocket, Zap, Arrows, Snowball on the board. And with lots of swarmy troops here, no big surprises with that log first pick out of Surgical Goblin's opponent.
Yep. Copious amount of small spells, and you also have those two big spells on the board. Snowball left from Surge. He opts for this Fisherman, and Fisherman is one of those cards in Mega Draft that when there's no tornado or anything is one of those must-haves. You can activate King Tower, you can prevent your opponent from going maybe Bowler or Magic Archer because those King Tower activations are there. And we see here Sub looking like it would be RG, but there's no Fisherman from him because Surge has that. So already a wild mix-up here at the start.
An interesting also piece there to have the log plus lightning, and when you're looking at lightning decks, you're looking usually something bigger. We do have the Ram Rider, MK Ram Rider with Mini P.E.K.K.A is still open here for Sub potentially, although the Bowler does make Ram Rider a slightly less enticing choice here for Sub. Maybe Sub's gonna go in the go really heavy, go in the Golem direction.
Yeah, definitely looking like it's a viable option. However, there's a Mighty Miner in there. It definitely could be Surgical. There's also a Mega Knight Ram Rider that I feel one of these two players has to go down, and Sub with this Electro Dragon and Lightning feels like he could double down on that. And Surge, I mean, he's still got so many avenues open. Ice Spirit picked here for Sub.
And Mega Knight, if and that's the big question here, right? Is that Mighty Miner might be the big equalizer. But if Sub does go Mega Knight here, that does mean it's a little hard for Surgical Goblin. Not great single target DPS. He'd kind of be forced to pick the Mighty Miner. I'm almost wondering here if Sub takes the Mighty Miner just to make sure that Surgical can't actually get his hands on it. And that would leave him with very little to defend, big beefy stuff, although that Barb's pick against the Lightning Log suddenly is a huge problem for Sub.
Yeah, talk about equalizers. There's one Barb's into a Lightning. Definitely a great pick there from Surge. What does Sub do? He takes the Mighty Miner, like you said, and he does have Barb's. However, when you see Barb's going up against Mega Knight, you usually want a mini tank or something like that. Otherwise, it's going to be some difficult navigation against those Barbs. He does take Goblin Gang here, so it doesn't look like it's going to be Mega Knight or Ram Rider from Sub. Will Surge take Mega Knight? Who knows? I mean, there's so many possible options here.
I don't love Mega Knight for Surgical Goblin here, only because he kind of already has that piece covered. For Sub, I don't like Ram Rider here at all. Golem's gonna have a huge problem.
This Electro Dragon here is just very, very problematic for Surge.
Yeah, and that's the only real option now, except for the arrows only have 2 targets. So Sub trying to make a last-second adjustment to a deck that had really gone down one lane, and Surgical Goblin had picked dramatically against that. And now Surgical Goblin goes Drill into a deck that other than the Electro Dragon, doesn't really have any splash damage.
Yeah, nice picks overall from both these guys in terms of the win conditions at the last minute. Like we mentioned, that Electro Dragon just really prevented the beatdown aspect of things, Surgical Goblin with the Goblin Hut is a pick that I like, just because there's no poison, no fireball, only a log to really take out that last wave of goblins and that one remaining goblin that spawns. And here we go, we see our first drill here.
Mighty Miner goes high, so Drill will spawn low, and a nice little lineup there for the Magic Archer. Mini P.E.K.K.A half step late, although will prevent most of the problems from happening. And look at that. Sub is now just going to press the action with the arrows out, and that Mighty Miner's going to get on tower for some real damage.
500 at least with all that, brings it down to 2,000. And I didn't really like that initial Magic Archer. It feels like Surge kind of just forgot that a mini P.E.K.K.A was stored away in Sub's deck, and it really put him on the back foot and allowed for that Mighty Miner to get all that damage that it did on the right.
And going for kind of out of order here, still gets it. Log and Ice Spirit will take care of the problem with that drill, and arrows clean things up for Surgical Goblin. So with the first 90 seconds away, lead for Sub 2868 to 2620, a little over 200, maybe 240, 250. The lead for Sub.
And that was a very smart Goblin Barrel there from Sub. Surgical had options to activate King Tower with that Electro Dragon that was on the tower, but forcing out the arrows didn't leave enough elixir for the troops that Surgical had it in hand to get that activation done. That's going to be crucial throughout this match, especially because arrows are oftentimes going to be outcycled, and that King Tower could have been super, super helpful for Surge.
And more like 800, as I totally had forgotten about the right-hand tower with the big Mighty Miner damage. So we're getting deep into this one, and that's a nice, easy pickup here. With only the Magic Archer, the arrows, I guess how does Surgical Goblin get the Hut better involved in this matchup?
I feel like now we're going to need to see it a lot more, especially because he's going to be able to dedicate more elixir to it. However, there's that could have been very, very devastating for Surge if that lightning hit everything. But he's got to start getting it more involved now. Maybe he plays it from the back. That way he gives himself options to play his troops towards the middle and get value out of at least one of them. But it just seems like Sub is very, very comfortable in this one, and whenever he plays this Electro Dragon, it's a real benefit and for Sub and a problem for Surge, and you don't really see that from any of the cards in Surge's deck.
Here we go into sudden death overtime. Bowler to keep the Electro Dragon distracted, and Surge trying to cover with troops as much as possible here. And now a pretty significant counter push. Log will chip away at that. Drill goes opposite lane, and the Electro Dragon once again. And it's not even about the offensive pressure it creates. It's that defensively it makes it so difficult for Sub to do for Surge to do what he really wants to do, which is a huge push. Now, keep in mind, look at the damage that just came in with the Electro Dragon in the right-hand lane, but that might be the end of it anyway, and there you go. Sub takes the right-hand lane, and the Electro Dragon just ends up being a problem from defense to offense over and over again.
Left and right, that Electro Dragon had its name written on this one. Really, it was an interesting draft because you really saw no clear options to victory. It seemed like Sub had ways to shut everything down that was remaining on the draft board with that Electro Dragon and the spells that he had. And because he took that Lightning, Rocket just really isn't played anymore. No real big spell options for Surge to handle and take care of that Electro Dragon. So definitely a great upper hand in the draft from Sub. Really, really great gameplay to follow. And Surge needs to bring this one back if he hopes to fight in the game 3, or will we be seeing his set number 3 from Sub here?
Yeah, and that's the big question is when we get into that last one, who has the 2v2. But Surgical Goblin, you know, when you're talking about how you prepare through a draft, and I think that sort of the draft styles have shifted a little bit. It used to be very much spell first, and we've seen kind of an adjustment in how people are looking at things. But even then, it still feels like you need to look at spells first, and then number 2, what are the cards that only have one counter on the board, or only one reasonable counter here? And you can see here the Electro Dragon being such a dramatic problem, even when you're playing Lightning into a Barbs deck.
Yeah, it's oftentimes those air cards, like you say, that only have one real answer. And when you take that answer, you can really piggyback off that card for the remainder of the game. And that's exactly what we saw.
Well, these players should be getting ready for their next round of Mega Draft fairly soon. And let's take a chance to remind you guys, if you haven't done it already, follow this channel on Twitch, subscribe to this channel on YouTube, make sure notifications are on, because this is only match number 2 of today's 4, and we are back tomorrow, Sunday, same time, same place, with the grand final and the 2 semifinals, where we will give away the top prize, $4,000 from our prize pool, and decide who is our overall Season 4 champion here at the Snapdragon Pro Series. And of course, follow us on all social media at ESL Mobile, on most social media at ESL_mobile, on Instagram. Let's go ahead and jump into our game number 2, and draft just starting. Little Prince, the opening pick here for Surgical Goblin, which is kind of bucked a lot of the trends here. Little Prince so powerful that Surge picking it as the first pick rather than thinking spells first.
Yeah, definitely wants to anchor this deck around the Little Prince. Great pickup from Sub with that poison. Poison plus Barbell, poison on its own will be able to take care of that Little Prince. So great response there. And this miner, I feel like, is 100% going to have to be picked up throughout this draft. Seeing all the support cards, don't expect Firecracker from Surge. Maybe Sub picks it up to play against that weakness of Surge not having the spell. And immediately Goblins, and do we see a Barbell pickup to get even more value out of those?
Now, we have seen people many picking almost kind of like spell baiting with the Little Prince, going Little Prince plus Musky, Little Prince plus Firecracker, Little Prince plus Archers, different methods to try to make sure that poison is if it's being used for that value on Little Prince, that it's also not being used somewhere else. Do you anticipate Surge making a play like that here?
Yeah, it's especially with what he has on the board. He's got those ranged units, like you say. He's got a Musketeer, he's got a Cannon card option, he's got a Witch option. So definitely a lot of different spell bait cards that he can play. And Surgicals, yeah, there we go. There's that Cannon card. And I feel like now maybe he stabilizes with the building or with a small spell, and then he waits out to see the remaining of this draft. And on Sub's end, feels like maybe if there isn't another air card played, this Baby Dragon could be a really good pick, especially when you're able to poison down that Little Prince.
You got to imagine that the Cannon card was partially picked because of the Bowler, with it being the tankiest options of our ranged troops. Tesla, the pickup here from Sub, maybe trying to cover Loon as a potential option. Also thinking about other things that are available right now, as Surgical Goblin now going to face a triple spell deck with 2 that are very clear Little Prince counters, not to mention the Bowler. So Sub just wanting to make sure there is no value out of Little Prince.
Yeah, and it feels like we could also see a Skarmy potentially, because it just doesn't seem like there's enough troops on the board just yet to pick up, especially a Guardian when that Little Prince ability is popped. So he's gonna end up wrapping this up with something else. Maybe he'll get a Knight as well. It's gonna be a great distraction and protection for that Tesla delivery. And Sub just really just settling on playing defensive this time around and just minor chipping throughout the game.
Well, with both Goblins, which will be susceptible to arrows, and of course the Lumberjack, that does create some questions. And pretty heavy, even though like Sub on face value kind of looks like he's playing this cycly deck. Look at how heavy this is. The average elixir cost has to be close to 4, if not above 4, with the 5 elixir. And going Graveyard here and trying to say, hey, how many options do you have? That poison's not going to be getting Little Prince every time. How well can you defend Graveyard? So Sub, let's see what he picks here. He has minions open. Goes with Firecracker as his pick. Interesting choice.
Firecracker while having arrows. Interesting pick. I feel like it is going to be able to get the value that he wants. He's going to be wanting to set up those defenses, maybe delivering at the bridge. Tesla, then maybe a Firecracker offset to the side to not really allow for much fire value and make Surgical Goblin pick and choose. Very intrigued by the graveyard pick into a minor poison. It's kind of doubling down on the fact that, hey, you know what? I'm going to be able to defend your troops just as well as you're going to be able to defend mine. So let's maybe rely on some RNG and just consistency throughout the game of getting that down. And that's just the route that he decides to go.
Delivery does go a little Prince. The bowler will clean up the tiny, annoying fellow. Yes, phenomenal bowler value. And now Surgical Goblin sets up Baby Dragon, does have Lumberjack as a potential way to control here. Let's see if that's the choice he makes. And there you go.
Lumberjack played in time. The first graveyard played of the day. No real hesitation from Surge. Baby Dragon is on tower, and you can't afford that with this stack if you're sub.
And you were talking about this earlier today, Minnie, that the meta right now, even in Mega Draft mode here, is so aggressive. But with Mega Draft, one of the things you get is you find yourself against decks that are not really well balanced. So a moment like this one, hey, Tesla's not able to control. You really have no way to stop this Baby Dragon getting on tower. Let's go ahead and go graveyard in front of this thing and really put the pressure on.
Yeah, and I mean, props to Surge for playing it aggressively as he should be in single elixir, trying to get this exact damage that he has to pull away and be able to play a lot more relaxed in double and triple elixir. Very nice strategy here. He is going to get some decent value out of it, but that cannon card pulls out of range from the tower, and he doesn't get the Firecracker Splash. Here we're going to see a Tesla and maybe a Delivery to clean up. Doesn't feel like there's enough elixir for both. I mean, this is just not going the way Sub planned it out.
No, not in the least. And this is why you're talking about that kind of swerve. The Mighty Miner does not have a phenomenal target here, right? And I think that you saw Sub maybe trying to hedge his bet against the Royal Giant potentially, which, you know, with the Lumberjack, you can see the synergy that existed there, the possibility of a Royal Giant deck, but not really anticipating the possibility of facing Graveyard at all and finding himself wanting.
Yeah, I mean, it seems like this deck will do great against those win conditions that have to travel through the grids, but you plop a Graveyard down, there's no way to stop it. And like we said, you called it, it's a very heavy deck, and that punished him at the start of the game, and just consistently throughout. It feels like he tried to make a minor control deck out of cards that just don't fit into the deck.
So there you go, Surgical Goblin ties it up, and now he and Vtor have match point coming up in our third and final Mega Draft matchup, and this was the big deciding moment here. Yes, Poison no longer fully counters Graveyard. We've stopped having that conversation, but Poison really doesn't counter Graveyard plus a Baby Dragon that's not quite in that Poison. So there you go, big opening win, and you saw their Sub wave the white flag and no longer really try to defend once he realized it was GG, well played, thumbs up from the great.
Yeah, very, very good swing back there from Surge. Kind of didn't expect Sub to be that out of his element throughout the game, especially after what we saw from him in Game 1. But now in Game 3, the draft board is going to be different. They are going to be able to play two different strengths. Will Surge be able to keep up that just high IQ? I really loved the Graveyard pick into Mine and Poison, just with the deck that Sub built. Because you talk about RG, anything else would have been a nightmare for Surge to try to get around. You pick a Graveyard into a Poison, you know, it gets countered by Poison, but it's going to get 200-300 damage every single time. And 2,000 damage if you're not able to pick up that Baby Dragon in single elixir. So just really well played, well drafted from Surge there as we wait for Game 3.
Well, I think one of the smart things that Surgical Goblin realized, besides the slowness of his opponent's deck and that he didn't have a truly phenomenal Graveyard counter. I mean, Poison, again, slightly counters, but as you mentioned, you get some damage half the time anyway. It's the Poison was primarily a pick in response to Little Prince. And he knew that I'm going to make you make decisions. And that Little Prince is going to get a lot more value when the decision you have to make is Poison defends Graveyard, not takes Little Prince off the board. So, you know, that was the last pick that Surgical Goblin made in that matchup, right? He drafted what really looked like, especially with the Lumberjack pick, looked like it was going to go Royal Giant, looked like it was going to go a different direction. And then taking advantage of that Cannon Cart, Baby Dragon, Graveyard synergy, and the fact that Sub had drafted himself into kind of a really tight spot, especially once Sub had picked the bowler after the, Sub's first 2 picks were poison arrows, which meant that he left goblins on the board and tried to play a deck that requires some quick cycle with no ability to get around.
Yeah, it seemed like those arrows just weren't it in that entire matchup at all. Maybe he would have been better off just with poison and delivery and getting maybe a musketeer or something else, especially for that baby dragon from range. And more about those arrows, you talk about having poison for the Little Prince. Okay, you got to use that on the graveyard. I'll use delivery on the Little Prince. Doesn't take it out. You're used to seeing Little Prince be dealt with delivery and log, but no log on this draft board means that when that ability gets popped, it's going to require a small unit or just maybe some splash from something else. Just wasn't that there. So it's what we're talking about. You make decks in Mega Draft similar to those that you play in regular 1v1, but some things just don't add up to the interactions that you need.
Well, Firecracker was a weird pick here too as the last pick, and you understand trying to go for something aerial. I think, like you said, Musketeer might have been a better pick there, and Musketeer can't be fireballed off the board when it's defending against that graveyard. Minions was also there as a possibility to help with the graveyard defense as well. So here we go. Sub now having first pick after losing the last game. Poison Rocket, Lightning NATO, Bar Barrel, Zap. The spells on the board. Sub picking Poison here. No Little Prince in the mix. No Archer Queen in the mix. Not a lot of aerial defense here. If you look at this one, Zappies, the Magic Archer, Dart Goblin, and Spears, and then you got to mix in the 3M and the minions. So Surgical Goblin now choosing to go minor with maybe some quicker cycle and seeing more fast cycle options. Let's see if Sub tries to go cycle here with the only 1 spirit on the board and no stab goblins, only spear goblins.
Yep, love to see that tornado pick. I was kind of expecting Surge to pick it up as the first pick and stabilize around that, because now Sub is going to have a lot of defensive control and be able to neutralize a lot of the win conditions on the field. Bomb Tower comboed with this Poison Tornado deck is going to be really, really huge. Surgical has the option, especially could have had the option at the start to maybe combo this miner with a balloon. Upon seeing a tornado and a building that we're probably going to see later on in this draft, not going to be the best choice. So he's probably going to be doubling down with cards like Zappies and maybe a Magic Archer to try to get more value out of the troops as opposed to win conditions.
NATO's certainly a wrench in the engine here for Surgical Goblin. So as you can see, trying to create more bridge pressure right now is the 2019 team captain of our World Championship Team Liquid from that season. Sub now with his pick and has not really tipped his hat any direction in terms of what he's building. Magic Archer, NATO, easy synergy choice. What's Surgical Goblin? Is Surgical Goblin going to go Rocket here just for the sake of having a big spell? Does he go Lightning just because it's going to give him more targets?
Yeah, it feels like if he had a Mortar, he'd be playing something that Igor would be playing in 2018, 2019 with that Mortar Rocket. But like we mentioned, he is going for troop value as opposed to win con value because Sub has already shut down the doors against the Balloon, against Piggies, against Ram Riders, especially if he picks up a building. So Surge is really leaning on, right now, spam. And with this miner, he's going to be able to get good things out of it, especially because now we've got a Mighty Miner on Sub's end. And what we saw from Pedro in the last set, you can't play multiple of those. So Miner going to be a free lock on tower unless he picks up another mini tank when that Mighty Miner is out of cycle.
Keep in mind that Surgical Goblin does get last pick here. So can he come up with something? This is a big question. Does Sub have to hedge his bet? Right now he has Miner fairly nicely covered, but Sub has to make a choice here. Does he pick up a building to hedge against that potential balloon pick at the end? So that's going to put Sub into a really weird spot where he currently has no win condition. He picks up Cannon. So Cannon, NATO, Spears, Magic Archer, which feels like it should be enough to cover against that balloon, even if a lightning pick does come in for Surge.
Yeah, and he goes with this Monk, which is actually, I really like that pick. Comboed with the Miner, Monk reflecting basically everything he's got on board. It's the Spears, the Cannon, and the Magic Archer is going to open the door up for a lot of minor connections on tower. Sub going with the Drill, I don't dislike that pick.
Does that put Surgical Goblin into a place where he has to pick either a Valkyrie or a Bomber here to cover that splash damage, or does Surge decide to go offensive in some way? Goes Goblin Barrel, and that is a fascinating final pick.
Well, living and dying by the bait sword as always, Surgical Goblin. And, you know, I feel like he didn't need to overcommit and get another defensive unit. Just because Bar Barrel, keep in mind, there's no Fireball from Sub. He can't Fireball Drill combo. So all of the defenses are usually going to be enough, unless combo with the Tornado to pull them away. So he can defend that Drill with a Bar Barrel. He can defend that with the Goblin getting surrounds. So I really like doubling down, especially because there's no log or no arrows. Maybe some minor Goblin Barrels are going to be the key to victory here.
Let's see. Magic Archer on defense gets reflected. Opening salvo from Surgical Goblin is effective, 2809 to 2588. And Cannon has to come out to defend against the Monk. Elixir and damage lead right now for Surgical.
Cannon place closer enough in case Surgical goes with another Goblin Barrel or Miner. Nice heads up play there. As opposed to playing farther away, this Cannon can now pick up all of the Goblins if need be. Poison comes down on tower. Sub has not pulled the trigger on the Drill just yet.
An easy split choice here with the Goblin Gang, and now Sub having to wait for a moment to make his decision. And Surgical Goblin gonna try to let this Mighty Miner or let this Monk get into range, but he doesn't want to reflect here, and he does. He reflects into a King Tower activation, and maybe that's just him recognizing that the King Tower activation was essentially inevitable in this matchup, but that seems like it was maybe a miscalculation.
Yeah, I feel like the reflection there just wasn't calculated to the fullest extent. And, I mean, that King Tower activation is going to be huge. He doesn't need a Tornado to King Tower anymore. He can use those Tornadoes towards the middle to get all three of those towers on it. And here we go, minor Goblin Barrel.
And smart here as the NATO pulls in, one Goblin does get its action. And talking to the replay booth here, that King Tower activation and the play we just saw, both of those would be great to look at after the match is over, if it's possible. Mighty Miner picked up here by the Dart Goblin and the Bandit. And here we go. That's a little deep on the barrel here. No. And pulling everything into the middle one more time. This time the reflection going to get plenty. And Surgical Goblin opening up a pretty nasty lead with 22 seconds left in regulation.
Yeah, that Goblin Barrel as the last pick, proving to be very, very useful. Poison does pick up the Dark Goblin in the back. And Oblivion have to be popped here for this Magic Archer.
Bandit in front, 5 seconds left, sudden death overtime on its way. Magic Archer available one more time. Keep in mind, there's no big spell here. It's just the Miner and the Barb Barrel. The only real ways to do anything even remotely close to spell work here. So the big question is, can Sub find a way to start abusing these Magic Archers? So far he has not been able to because of the reflection ability of the Monk, but with it being so hard to get to those Magic Archers, you have to imagine Sub's going to start trying to find some way to get them more in the mix.
Yeah, I think he's figured out that that's going to be his way to at least fight back in this one. No real answer for it from Surge besides that Monk reflection. It's definitely something that he wants to be spamming from now until the end of the game. And, ooh, great Royal Ghost positioning there.
Did pretty well, but doesn't matter. Reflection from the Monk. Miner gets on, Goblin gets on, and Surge playing this Miner bait to perfection so far. As long as he plays mistake-free Clash Royale, he should have the win here in just a couple moments.
Yeah, great Bar Barrel there to clean up, although it does get a lineup there. Seems like there's just a little bit of hope for Sub here.
Oh boy.
Great Tornado. I don't think there's another Bar Barrel cycle. Yes, it is, but it does miss the spawning Goblins. Barrel Miner takes it.
And big win here for Surgical Goblin and Vtor. Getting it done in 3 sets, doing it the hard way. But Surgical Goblin getting it done in set number 2. Vtor getting it done in set number 1. And that's a nice 2-0 sweep here for Equipo Miawa.
Yeah, in that in that one push where that goblin went through, where he had that great ghost positioning, he missed a tornado on one goblin. That was the equivalent of 300 damage. That's what really cost him, because he was able to start fighting back and finding his groove with those magic archer tornadoes in triple elixir. But those mistakes stacking up throughout the game just doesn't leave you enough HP to fight it out in triple elixir. Austin subbed the game.
I'll say let's go ahead and take a look at the bracket now, as we've got a couple of world finalists moving on here. Vtor and Faust both moving on with their respective partners, Surgical Goblin and Doom. Lots of heavy hitters there. That will be our first semifinal matchup tomorrow, as we are only doing our quarterfinal matches today. Coming up next, Wallace and Arden Toas against LeBron James, Bob the Rock, and Sosa, to find out who will be the third team moving into our top 4 for this big time competition. And you know, we went to 2v2 in the first set. Second set, very dominant performance here out of Surgeon Vtor.
Yeah, really, really well played overall, and they're going to be joining us in tomorrow's semifinal and finals. Props to them. They have been so consistent in Season 4 of the Snapdragon Pro Series, and now I just personally can't wait to see some LeBron James action. Been doing a great job holding up against Father Time. Hasn't gotten the results we expect of him throughout, but I'm hoping for a difference today.
Well, you're going to have to wait just a little bit, because we have a short break. We'll be back in just a few minutes with LeBron James making his debut on our show.
The Snapdragon Pro Series powered by Samsung Galaxy is brought to you by Snapdragon Elite Gaming, Samsung Galaxy S23 Ultra, Monster Energy, and DHL.
And welcome back to our third quarterfinal here at the Snapdragon Pro Series, powered by the Samsung Galaxy. I'm Rich Slayton. That's Juicy J. Is that which way do I point? I do point this way. Yeah, that's Juicy J right over there. And we are very excited for our next matchup. Juice, coming up here in just a couple of minutes, we have Team LeBron James up against Mancos, who features two of our big-time world finalists from our just-done world finals for Clash Royale League.
Yeah, we got Wallace and we got Arden Toas. And we also have Sosa teaming up with Bob the Rock on LeBron James' team. A lot of big, heavy hitters here. It's hard for me to say who I think is going to win. I mean, I think if I had to pick, I would go for Wallace and Arden. I think that their synergy is going to be quite good. And if it gets to that 2v2 set, I think it'll be them taking it.
Well, Arden did have a really nice showing overall at CRL World Finals this year, kind of shaking the demons of seasons past, if you will, with with his now best performance at a World Finals, and a pretty solid one too overall, making it fairly deep into our competition. Whereas his opponent Bob the Rock is certainly talented, but they are going to be the first matchup here in our duel mode, and I have to give the advantage here to Arden when it comes to duels.
Yeah, Arden versus Bob in duels, I think that makes a lot of sense. It's interesting to see, or it's interesting to hear that Sosa is not going to be playing the duels mode. Maybe he's more confident in the Mega Draft. But yeah, I think you're right. Like you said, Arden showed up at the World Finals. He got over that hump of never winning at a live stage. And then once he was there, he was just smooth sailing. But we all know also how good Arden is online. When it comes to him playing from the comfort of his home,
Yes.
He's so good. He's top tier, S tier player. He won one of the golden tickets for the Clash Royale League in 2023. And it's going to be very tough for Bob the Rock to be able to overcome the mountain that is Arden in this environment.
And I think that's a really great point that you make, Juice, that we talked about a lot at World Finals, that there was a lot of conversation that I'll take responsibility for a lot of it, was that, and let's go ahead and jump into the game here, that Arden at home is absolutely S tier, and that Arden on a live stage had a bit of a nerf. Now, he did have Sosa as his matchup in round number 1, who was clearly very nervous, and then he lost to Mugi, but then Arden got a really nice win over Wallace before falling to Ruben and finishing up in our top 8 overall for World Finals. So I'm very curious to see how he continues to perform now that he's kind of gotten that under his belt. And of course, Arden at home is very frightening for anybody.
Little Prince from Bob the Rock here, looking like a Goblin Giant Mir matchup. We talked a little bit about how these best of 3s are almost like best of 1s, where Goblin Giant's winning almost every set. But in this situation, we see a Goblin Giant Mir matchup. And I think this is going to be a very important set, because I think whoever wins this will probably be winning the duels formatting best of 3 here. And I got to give an advantage to Arden already. I love this counter push. It's going to be pretty difficult for Bob to stop. He does get the King Tower activation as well, but look at those spears.
And they're getting a lot of damage on the right-hand side. Damage that Arden didn't take in a very similar exchange the opposite direction. So a huge opening play here. As we've gone past the first 90, it's 2876 to 1904. Now, of course, Goblin Giant Sparky, one big push, or Goblin Giant Rage, one big push can change everything. But right now, Arden with a significant advantage.
Yeah, the other big difference here in the decks, well, there's two big differences. You have the Mega Knight from Bob, Arden with the Bowler. The other big difference is the spell. The spell for Arden is the Lightning. So having the Lightning rather than a Fireball is, I want to say, in the Fireball's favor. I feel like a lot of the time you'd rather have a Fireball to be able to stun and more cheaply break through the Little Prince.
Well, let's see if Bob is able to create a situation that takes advantage of that one. Both players right now mostly sitting on their rages defensively, although Bob not having to use it there. Now we'll see if we end up with a raged up push the opposite direction. Fisherman does survive, and it will do enough to pull the opposite direction. Fireball plus Fishboy takes off the Little Prince, and the lead is chipped down just a little bit, a little under 600, now around 800 HP is the lead for Ardentonis.
Yeah, I can't help but think that maybe Bomb's Fireball was either like late there, or if he didn't have enough elixir, maybe he shouldn't have done it at all. Fisherman took care of the Little Prince, and now he's in this situation where he's down quite a bit of elixir and damage. He is able to, Arden is able to defend here quite nicely versus Bob's a little bit of an onslaught there. And we see the Lightning actually get decent value, clearing off the Fish Boy and that Little Prince in that situation.
And now Mega Knight is going to get a lot of value here as the Rage cleans up the bats. Goblin Giant pulled in, Bowler looking the wrong way, lots of Fireball value. Mega Knight gets onto the Fisherman. Bowler does come out to control, but I think the big piece here, Juicy, is that while Bob didn't get a lot of damage out of that one, he did give himself a slight elixir lead, which could be critical as we go into our double or our sudden death overtime.
Yeah, and once again, this Mega Knight getting good value. Rage drops in the bats. Evil bats are now in cycle. Goblin Giant kills the minions. Rage do defend the evil bats. Little Prince on the Goblin Giant, but here comes that Fireball, knocking that off. Fisherman's still alive though, and Arden will come out still up in damage just barely as Triple Elixir comes through.
And now he does have the elixir lead with that 5 elixir Bowler on the board. Evo bats of his own in the mix. Goblins versus minions, the other big difference here in this matchup as Arden does get some more damage. Fireball misses one minion. Bats will come out and clean it up. But now Arden looks like he's holding steady, at least for the moment, as the Bowler protects the Little Prince. Now Goblin Giant down high.
Goblin Giant at the bridge. Bowler actually distracting the Fisherman. Goblin Giant gets the tower for one shot before being pulled by the Fisherman. And here comes the counter push from Bob. Little Prince ability though wipes out the Goblins, and the Rage kind of missed the bats. And it's looking like Arden's got a huge advantage here.
18 seconds left, about double the HP for Ardentois as Bob has to find a way to break through. Fireballs won't do it, especially if they don't get on tower here. And that's going to be a fairly easy one. Game number 1 here for Ardentois, who takes the lead to kick things off.
Yeah, I really liked how he used that Bowler. We saw the Mega Knight get a lot of defensive value, but we saw the Bowler get a lot of offensive value, and it was kind of tricky how much damage that Bowler got. We see on the replay here at the beginning of the match, the Goblin Giant locking the tower, but at the middle there, the Bowler gets the damage. And also, Bowler did a great job of on defense as well. You know, I got to give him credit for that also.
Solid performance here, and now we're Goblin Giant out on both sides. So I think the real question now is, with Lightning and Minions being the difference, right? Fireball Goblins versus Lightning Minions. It does now feel like that leaves Ardentois with better options moving forward. Minions don't really go anywhere else. Goblins certainly do go in a lot of other decks. Lightning may be a part of E-Giant, but with having played kind of what he played already, I mean, with Bowler already out, I don't really know if E-Giant was the most likely option. It feels to me, Juicy, and correct me if I'm wrong, that there's a lot better paths forward in Game 2 and, if necessary, Game 3 for Arden than there are for Bob the Rock.
Yeah, I think that makes sense. I think you're absolutely right, especially because of that spell pick, like you said. Lightning really only used in E-Giant and sometimes in Goblin Giant, but having that Fireball as an option leaves open a lot of opportunities from a Royal Giant deck. Also, just defensively versus stuff like Pigs, it really kind of locks down on what Bob the Rock can play in this game number 2 as well. So I think that's a really good analysis that you've done there.
When you think about that, Fireball, Mega Knight, Little Prince, Fisherman all out for Bob the Rock. If I'm him, I am 100% running a bomb tower right now, because you have to anticipate that pigs are coming down the hole. So let's see if Arden does go Royal Hogs in game number 2, or if he goes a different direction and plays for maybe an even matchup here and goes with regular old Hog Rider. If Bob the Rock plays bomb tower in this deck, which it'd be weird given what we've seen so far, I have to imagine that pigs come out in game number 3.
Yeah, bomb tower, maybe not going to be here, but the bomber instead to kind of try to control that case where Arden would have used pigs. But looks like it's going to be Hog, EQ, Firecracker, and Bob the Rock going with the Lava Hound. I mean, it kind of makes sense to use Lava Hound with the Little Prince out for Arden. Here's the pressure in the opposite lane, and unless that Arden has the Tesla as his building, these lava pushes could be scary.
Couple shots in on both lanes now, courtesy of those Hog Riders. I've not seen a perfect Hog counter yet, and he does have the Tesla. Miner will go there to get off the board. Mighty Miner with an easy pickup. And now Loon, though, goes to the left-hand lane. Firecracker trying to stop it. Inferno Dragon gets a lot of burn. Ice Spirit to slow the Loon. Arrows clear. That's going to be 2 shots from the Balloon. But now Hog Rider into the right-hand lane.
Hog Rider in the right-hand lane, and look at Bob's Elixir Bar. He only has enough for this Bomber to try to mitigate the Hog shots. Larry gets 1 shot as well. And we have a fairly even situation here after the dust has settled. 672 on the top left of Arden's tower and 745. I can't help but think that Arden is maybe okay with this situation. You know, at least he's kept his tower alive. But Bob the Rock, as long as he gets this push going on the left-hand side and takes his tower, he's going to be so much better in the tower down situation.
And talk to me a little bit about that, Juicy. Why is this tower down situation so much better for Bob the Rock than it is for Arden Toas?
I think that the big thing is just those big Lava Hound pushes. But look at this. I mean, maybe I'm wrong. Mighty Miner ability, using access to that tower pre-earthquake onto the Evo skeletons, and he does get some nice damage on this opposite lane. But I think overall, this is what we're talking about in the tower down. We see 2 Lava Hounds on the board. We're going to see a Balloon coming out quite soon after maybe these Firecrackers go down. Maybe it won't go down, though. Maybe he doesn't have another spell. Just arrows for this spell. So this Evo Firecracker actually able to keep the tower quite healthy.
And now the Mighty Miner play to the right-hand lane. Hog should come in left, and it does. Mighty Miner down. The Mighty Miner gets on tower, EQ in, and that will be enough. Arden just has to cycle, doesn't even have to cycle. The Firecracker stays alive. I can't believe the Evo Firecracker was still alive at that point. And that is an easy 2-0 as Arden Toas pulls a fast one on Bob with the Mighty Miner switcheroos and gets a huge 2-0 to start things off.
Yeah, 2-0 sweep here. Looking at the replay, we saw the correct pressure from Arden here, realizing he can't defend, so I might as well take this tower. Once he took this tower, he had access to his opponent's side of the map, allowing that Mighty Miner plus Earthquakes to be a huge threat. Defensively, we saw perfect protection of the Evo Firecracker versus the Miner there with the Ice Spirit. And then we also saw the fact that arrows being your only spell is not enough to take out the Evo Firecracker. It killed the first Lava Hound, it killed the second Lava Hound, and like you said, it counter pushed on the offense as well as stay alive for forever. And Arden, you know, doing what he does best in these online competitions.
Well, you saw Lava Loon Miner with arrows here, right? And I think that was maybe the miscalculation that was made here, was that the Bob really thought he was going to get more out of his Miner. He tried to get the Miner onto the Tesla, picked up easily by the Mighty Miner. Tried to get his Miner onto that Evo Firecracker. Nope, got blocked there as well. And so then he left himself. He went Lava Loon Miner rather than Lava Loon. That Miner spot taking a spell spot, you know, not playing Arrow Zap, for example, or Arrow Snowball. And I think we might have had a very different story, as you were talking about, if the Miner wasn't part of this deck. But going Lava Loon Miner got himself handcuffed. And we saw that Evo Firecracker not only play defense, but get a second Firecracker, defend everything with that Tesla, and then go coast to coast for the killing blow to finish things off. So very, very nicely done by Arden to kind of stay in it and see where he had the opportunities. And I'm honestly kind of shocked that Bob, with both Firecracker, Evo Firecracker, and Evo Archers open, didn't guarantee a cover for both of those 2 cards.
Yeah, I think the other thing that he needed to do if he wanted to truly break through that Evo Firecracker is, first of all, he went for the Miner, right, onto the Evo Firecracker, but Arden precisely blocked with Ice Spirit. A lot of times in that situation, you have to go Miner and then pre-arrows, assuming that they're going to protect. Maybe if he did that, he would have had the opportunity to break through, but you can't arrows after the fact of your miner. It's just not how it's going to work. As we are heading into the Mega Draft set here, we are going to be saying goodbye to Rich. Mini going to be hopping on the cast. I love Mega Draft. I can't wait to watch this set. We have Wallace here at the top versus Sosa. And yeah, Sosa going to be needing to take this win here to keep his team alive, to keep LeBron James alive. I know you love the LeBron James team, Mini. You know, talk to me about it.
I do. I've been a LeBron James fan since I was a little boy. These guys have been tearing it up both in the basketball and Clash Royale scene, but their backs are against the wall once again. Sosa, just remember the LeBron James legacy that you are representing. Your back is against the wall. You have expectations to uphold. Just channel your inner GOAT. Draft these cards like they've never been drafted before. Become one with the draft board and take this to a game 3. I entrusted everything to you, my pride, my promise, everything, okay? I'm not gonna tolerate failure.
Wow, that was the best pep talk I've ever heard. Thank you so much for that. Looking at the draft board, I mean, I feel like Sosa is becoming one with the draft board already. Like you said, he's got that Phoenix. Not a lot of counters, if not no really hard counter to the Phoenix on this board. He took the Miner to prevent Wallace from having the Miner poison. And then the Fisherman, you know, just such a solid card in Mega Draft, getting so much value and opening up opportunities for potential King Tower activations.
Yep, looking at what he's got left, I expect him to take a Fireball to be able to deal with maybe a Wizard or Skelly Drags on the opposite side of the arena. And I'm leaning towards Delivery just to have a concrete answer for these wrestlers when they cross. However, he can also go the Valkyrie side and rely on them that way and be taking something more aggressive on the offensive like a Rage.
Yeah, Rage, we've seen really take the meta by storm, especially when paired with the Goblin Giant. Ever since that, it got added damage to the Rage. And I can't help but think Sosa will take the Rage now, because it does a great job in combination with the E-Spirit of taking out these Rascal Girls and these minions. So I think it makes sense for him to take the Rage here. The other thing on Wallace's end is I think he's going to continue to take these bait element type cards. Could potentially see a Goblin Barrel pick from Wallace here to make sure that Rage has a lot of different things that it's going to be needed to be used on. Ooh.
There we go. There's the Delivery to shut down those Rascals. I feel a nasty Graveyard deck brewing for Wallace, though.
Ooh,
he's got Poison to deal with the defenses, Snowball to slow everything down.
Yeah.
And if you think about it, like, what can Sosa do? Like, maybe he can pick up an EQ to, like, defend all that, but otherwise, he's going to be relying heavily on this Electro Spirit and Delivery. We both know how slim the margins of error are when you're relying on cards like that, especially in Mega Draft where your cycle's not as quick as you're used to it being. So, it's going to be a tricky one here for Sosa.
Interesting, and he just goes straight for the Monk to counter this Archer Queen. But if Wallace does pick that Graveyard now, Sosa, like you said, not having a great counter to it. There goes the Graveyard, and I really like what Wallace has done here. He started with a Poison. He took Rascals and the Minions, the two best counters of the Graveyard on this board, and then slowly just built himself up. Take that Graveyard last card, not giving Sosa a single chance to be able to react to that Graveyard and pick a counter. And at this point, it's going to take a lot of perfect gameplay from Sosa to win this match, even having the Monk for this Archer Queen.
Yeah, we talk about Sosa being one of those players who ascended to World Finals just based off of a cycle gameplay. And he's one of those players, I feel like Lucas is one of those players, Pedro maybe could be one of those players, that you can't really get away from. You can't stop them from using the Miner in Mega Draft when it's available.
Yeah, Miner is one of those cards that no matter what, no matter how many times it gets nerfed, it seems like it's always consistent in the meta because it always finds a way to get damage on the tower. And, you know, I think Graveyard is a card that is very similar to be like that as well. Even when you have the Poison, like you mentioned in the last set, it seems like it always is able to get the damage. And I can't help but think that it's going to be more consistent in that aspect in this situation.
Yeah, very good call there. Bomb Tower goes on Monk ability, and Phoenix here to pick up the mini P.E.K.K.A. This is going to be a great little counter push here for Wallace with this Archer Queen once it takes out the Phoenix. Could even be seeing a Graveyard come down here and then an Archer Queen ability come down at the bridge. But I feel like Wallace just knows that he has a really nice matchup here. And there's no need to rush it. There's no need to do anything crazy. Just, here we go, great read. Minions get popped. Snowball comes down before the Monk ability does. And those Skellies are working on the cannon, but all in all, not much damage on the tower.
Yeah, I can't help but think that maybe Sosa got pretty lucky there with the Graveyard RNG, as the cannon was somehow able to kind of take everything out there, despite the Snowball coming in, slowing everything down. We do see another counter push from Wallace here, though. Rascals, mini P.E.K.K.A. Roll delivery plus Fisherman doing a great job of cleaning this up, though.
Yeah, and I mean, this is an interesting match because all the miners are going to be dealt with a mini P.E.K.K.A. That's always going to open the door for a counter push to be played at the bridge from Wallace. And there's just not much that Sosa can do about it. You know, he's got to be playing the miners to get damage on the tower. So he really just has to plan out the defense in the best way possible. Great prediction ability to match Wallace's ability there. And we're just going to see the Phoenixes here are also going to be really, really optimal at taking care of the pushes at the bridge.
And here comes the push at the bridge, but the Phoenix is back in hand for the Graveyard, though, not to block at the river, and these skeletons are swarming. On the right-hand side, though, we see this miner tanking for the Phoenix, and it does get a shot. So Sosa actually ends up being in the damage lead after seemingly an amazing push from Wallace here.
That's exactly why you're on the LeBron James team. Sosa, never give up, never say die, keep fighting against this unfortunate matchup. It's okay, you got this. And the bomb tower gets reflected here, and just additional damage on tower. LeBron James train going strong.
And the Fireball plus delivery combo doing a great job of cleaning out both pushes on both sides. And here comes the Graveyard plus minions at the bridge. Snowball like a mini freeze, slowing this tower down. The skeletons are swarming. Delivery is back in hand, but the damage is done.
Yeah, those Graveyard pushes are so effortless at this point from Wallace, where he just... That's an unfortunate pull there from Wallace as well. He wanted that Archer Queen to go down to the left-hand lane. We've seen ability popped here. Yes, we do. Locks onto the Fisherman.
Rascals Graveyard at the bridge from Wallace, waiting to play the Graveyard just to make sure the Rascals were not blocked. He wants to have that tank down. Eastmere did a pretty good job of cleaning up most of these skeletons, but that Graveyard is not done yet. A couple more skeletons spawn. Tower's well below 800 HP at this point.
And great job at dealing with the Graveyard with the tools that he's got left, but it's the same story throughout this game, right? The Graveyard just getting damage every single time. The tanks can be as effortless as minions at the bridge or Rascals at the bridge and just get consistent damage every single time.
Miner's trying to get enough chip to get this game back in Sosa's favor, but there's only 14-13, 12 seconds left on the clock. Another Graveyard is coming through. Monk ability plus Miner. I don't think it's going to be a lot of damage. This Graveyard Poison Snowball comes in, and that is the final nail in the coffin here. GG's to Wallace, taking game one of the Mega Draft. And now we have a very difficult situation for Sosa. Sosa needs to win the next 2 games to keep his team alive to force to the 2v2 set.
Yeah, back is against the wall. LeBron James, no stranger to pressure. And that's how damage will be.
That's a great call. I'm looking at the replays here. I mean, we saw it time and time again. Graveyard, Poison. Sosa just simply not having the correct Graveyard counters in cycle. Maybe, like you said, he should have taken an Earthquake at some point, kind of to be careful versus the Graveyard. That's what Mega Draft's about. Because a lot of time, players are going to pick their win condition last to prevent people from countering their win condition. But with that in mind, you have to make sure you have a counter to every win condition on the board as you're drafting through, or else you get in a situation just like that.
Yeah, it's what makes Mega Draft such a difficult and intricate game mode. What people often say is the most skill-wise game mode because you're the one in control of picking those matchups. This one here was just too much for Sosa to bear. Wallace with the first pick now opening up with that Log. I feel like Log, statistically speaking, has got to be the most drafted card in Mega Draft, if not most drafted first pick as well.
Yeah, Log is always just such a solid card to have. It's cheap, it's cyclable, it doesn't allow for counter pushes, but also, unlike arrows or, you know, other small spells like Snowball or Zap, it's a card that can be used so well on defense, not just offensively, and it gets value versus almost every card. You know, there's almost no situation where the Log hits a card that is a ground-based card and doesn't get some sort of value in the knockback capability.
Yeah, Log utility is so great in just absolutely any aspect. I really like what Sosa has open here. Musketeer is going to be immortal, especially if he can get a Valkyrie on the board as well and protect it. So he's going to be able to get his not minor poison, but maybe a minor EQ deck that we know he loves, especially if he can pick up a Bomb Tower here. Complement that with a Musketeer that's just never going to go down. He's got the minor and there's no big spells on the table. So this time around, I feel like he's a lot better equipped to go the minor route as opposed to last game where a Graveyard was on the board. This time it's not. So really, really good board for Sosa here.
Yeah, and I love the delivery pick too. I'm almost a little bit confused of why Wallace didn't take the delivery, because with no big spell on the board and no monk, like you said, that Musketeer, that Boulder, that Mother Witch has a lot of potential to get good value here, and that delivery kind of acts as a big spell defensively to be able to take those glass cannons out. But Sosa has the delivery, and like you said, great call, picked the Musketeer. It's going to be very difficult for Wallace to break through that.
Yeah, Wallace, I feel like he's just screaming that he wants to pick a balloon with this deck, even though Sosa is the one that's got the minor. But it feels like Wallace is the type of person to just be like, you know what, it doesn't matter. Balloon, Lumberjack, it's a good combo. You don't often get synergies in Mega Draft, so you're very often drawn to the little ones that you see. We do see a Princess pick. I really like that because there's no Log and there's no arrows to take that out. So much like the Musketeer pick from Sosa, it's going to be anchoring off that for a lot of these interactions. And these players, just 2 cards left for each.
Fascinating. I mean, I was a little bit confused about the Princess, but after you said it, it makes sense. We see Ghost from Wallace trying to just kind of make a waiting card, a card that gets decent value, and it is his pick to take the win condition. Let's see if he takes that balloon like he predicted, and there it is.
Balloon being picked. I almost kind of want a 3 Musketeers to be picked just because there's no big spells. I feel like that's also one of those combos that really just yells at you. No Mega Knight, no big spells. 3 Musketeers, we don't see them often enough, but he's probably going to be playing a lot more safe.
Wow.
Takes the Valkyrie, and I feel like he's going to be relying heavily on blocking the bridge every single time and just getting clean Musketeers or Bomb Towers on it, because he doesn't have more than the Musketeer to really take care of that balloon, besides the Mighty Miner Bomb Tower, and the Spirit. So he really has to be smart about how he plays it, but this is his bread and butter. So
yeah, I can't help but think that Valkyrie pick is just weird though. I mean, I feel like it doesn't get that much value, and he already had a tank and a delivery. So, you know, maybe he just didn't have a better idea. I feel like at least though you want to take some sort of air targeting card there to deal with that balloon. But maybe, like you said, he's just going to rely on blocking at the bridge versus the Lumberjack with his 2 various tanks, and relying on that Musketeer almost solely versus the balloon.
I feel like the idea behind the Valkyrie is he's got a Ghost, he's got a Lumberjack as Wallace, and
yeah,
I'm talking about how the Mighty Miner can get outcycled, right? I feel like he's trying to avoid that a lot by picking the Valkyrie, just to always have the Valkyrie in hand.
That makes sense. Yeah, I kind of forgot about that Ghost, but you're so right. Always having a tank for the Ghosts and the Lumberjacks, and even the Archer Queen, he almost has something for everything. There goes the delivery on the Queen there. I love the early ability, preventing any damage, forcing the Ice Spear as well.
Yeah, that Archer Queen placement was a little bit on the edge, just because it could have maybe picked up that wall breaker on the right hand side. And we see Sosa, you know, just not even having to spend much, but making Wallace so uncomfortable having to overcommit on defense, and he's up Elixir already going into double Elixir and up a lot of damage as well.
Here comes a great Cage here. Cage gonna pull from both sides. He decides to Lumberjack on the Mighty instead of letting the Cage deal with it though. Kind of a waste of Elixir. I expected a Balloon behind, but obviously he doesn't want to go Balloon into that Musketeer. And we just see a Log in the Wall Breaker, Archer Queen in the back, and he's just setting up for defense on great ability to kill that Musketeer as well. Princess Bridge.
Yeah, I was going to say this is going to be a very defensive game because Sosa doesn't have a big spell, and Wallace can't really go too hard because it's always going to be defended here. I expect maybe a bomb tower to finish cleaning this up, and I mean, it just feels like each respective player has troops that are going to get value against the other. So it's kind of going to be a waiting game of who's going to be able to get the most value out of their either Archer Queen ability or their Mighty Miner before they go in.
Interesting. Here comes the Miner Wall Breakers in the right-hand lane. Lumberjack plus Log. Log does not hit Wall Breakers. Cage only absorbs one, and that's a massive Wall Breaker connection. Maybe a bit of a mistake from Wallace here as the nerves are starting to set in just a bit. And no Lumberjack can cycle, but here comes the Ghost Balloon Musketeer on the defense, but the Ghost was invisible. So the Musketeer and that tower really doing a great job of locking on the Balloon here.
Yep, ability going to come down, but that bomb turret bombs does not take out that Archer Queen, and the Valkyrie does end up being taken out. So it's still in control, still has a damage, so you'd expect the Mighty Miner to come down on this Ghost. No, going to be a delivery Mighty Miner not in cycle just yet. This is going to be routine defenses for Sosa. Wallace not really having enough power to break through because Sosa was the one who picked the miner at the start of the game.
Yeah, Balloon, like you said, controlled very easily with the Musketeer plus Bomb Tower. Princess again from Wallace. Lumberjack to stop the Musketeer shot. I mean, Manny, what do you think that Wallace needs to do to make this comeback here? It seems like it's a very daunting task.
I think he needs to do more of this. Princesses on the map and trying to get 2 or 3. I would have popped the Mighty Miner ability there for Sosa because now this is exactly what he needs to start snowballing. He's got 2 balloons on the board. One of them is going to get a connection on the right-hand side. No Spirit. And now there's going to be another Princess here for Wallace, and he's playing with a 3-card cycle.
Another Princess, and he protects the one at the bridge as well. Musketeer dies on the right-hand side. And what a beautiful use of the 3-card cycle to get all of these Princesses. There's 4 of them on the board now, just controlling the entirety of the map. But Sosa knows he needs damage, so he lets the Princesses go, and he gets the Miner on the tower. Wall Breakers in. He is able to stop these Wall Breakers, not able to catch the Miner, and Sosa actually going to win this match despite Wallace's attempt to really control the map and make that comeback. And Sosa, like we talked about, going to be taking this game, and if he can win the next one, he will force it to that 2v2.
Sosa showing why in LeBron James we trust, and going back a little bit to that game, we kind of called that Wallace was just going to go with Balloon. Just it felt like it was calling to him. But, I mean, I feel like Sosa just really got the upper hand in this one because of how comfortable he is playing Miner, and just wasn't enough for Wallace to do. I don't feel like going Balloon, despite Lumberjack Loon being such a good synergy, just felt like maybe something else could have been done. Lack of small spells playing a very, very bad part for Wallace, but definitely helped out Sosa throughout that one.
Yeah, I think another big thing that Wallace kind of did that kind of made him lose the momentum in a way was that snowball plus log on the Musketeer on the right hand side, and then defending the Miner with the Lumberjack. I feel like you have 4 Princes on the board. You got to let the Miner go and get another Lumberjack Loon on the board in an attempt to break through and win the match, especially when you have 4 Princesses that are controlling everything and helping break through like bomb towers and stuff like that, killing the Musketeers. But the defensively minded gameplay, you know, it's something that these players are kind of used to. But Wallace not having the big spell to finish off the game allowed Sosa to take that victory.
Yeah, it was kind of like a game of cat and mouse with Wallace just trying to pick where he was going to go in. But he's got to be careful because there's these 2 slippery wall breakers that are going to come in at any second. We saw a lot of that in single Elixir, and Wallace was able to do a lot better job of controlling them later on. But less on that. Here we go. LeBron James fighting for their life here at the Snapdragon Pro Series. We will see Wallace with the first pick, picking Fireball. Sosa instantly goes with Phoenix and Arrows.
Phoenix, Arrows. Arrows definitely a great pick here when your opponent takes the main kind of big spell. I like the Phoenix pick as well, because if you look at the rest of the board, there's not a card that really does very well versus it. And also does a great job of controlling the Monk. Also, just notice there's not any really good Monk counters on the board, like a mini P.E.K.K.A. or an Inferno Dragon, other than that Phoenix. So this kind of opens up Sosa the opportunity to take this Monk, have a chance to deflect those fireballs and those magic archers, and potentially more.
Yeah, and I feel like that's a great call. If I was Sosa, that's definitely the route I would want to go looking at this draft board. He's got arrows for the minions, so those aren't going to be something that Wallace is going to look to pick up. And maybe an Executioner or Baby Dragon just to give his Phoenix that much more value. But I do see a Goblin Giant and a Rage on the board. Got to imagine that one of these players is at least thinking of taking that. And I mean, these champions, I feel like Wallace would have more success taking the Mighty Miner, just because there wouldn't be a reset on Sosa's side unless he takes the Monk.
And Wallace decided to go for the Inferno Tower, realizing that that Goblin Giant is a possibility, realizing that the Monk plus Phoenix combo is a possibility, and that Inferno Tower doing a great job of kind of controlling Sosa's choices here. Maybe he will kind of go towards something like Royal Hogs, as it is not very Inferno Towerable, if you will, but Wallace once again having that Fireball to deal with those as well.
Yeah, I feel like Sosa has to be very smart in how he approaches this, because, okay, he goes with the Royal Hogs, as you said, but I felt like maybe E-Giant could have been an option, and maybe picking a Zap or something. However, you also have that Fisherman that does a great job against all ground units, so being the most comfortable with these Royal Hogs is Sosa. And I love the deck that Wallace has built so far. Magic Archer is going to be a problem, always going to have to be arrowed and zapped, but then you have Spear Goblins to get value out of that. So it's going to be E-Barbs.
Wow.
Wallace. That's a pick that we don't always see, but going back to just traditional E-Barbs Clash Royale, E-Barbs are a great counter for ground troops, and they'll give you a great counter push.
This is very true. The other thing, though, is Sosa seems to have some solid E-Barbs counters in the Valkyrie and those Skeletons to distract. I'm interested to see if Wallace will take a win condition last card, or if he just goes for the Rage to pair with the E-Barbs here, and then just relying on the Magic Archer as his main win condition. He decides to go for that Ram Rider, but Sosa preemptively taking that Goblin Cage, ready for the defense versus that Ram. Zap also a card that could get value, and we see a Sparky pick from Sosa. Talk to me, I mean, Minnie, like, why do you think Sparky was his thought here?
I love it just because there's only a Fireball to really Fireball it on Sosa's side of the map. And if we go back just one step before, Goblin Cage was picked from Sosa, Ram Rider was picked from Wallace. I love that pick for two reasons. The Goblin Cage, usually want to play it directly in front of the Ram Rider in order to be able to get rid of that just with that. But Wallace has a Magic Archer, so he sees that building selection from Sosa and opts to go Ram Rider, seeing some possible lineups there, because you're not going to be playing that Goblin Cage in the middle. Otherwise, it's going to get snared, and that Ram Rider is going to charge onto tower. And then a Sparky pick in response, having to be kind of a backup plan for that, because of what we mentioned. There just doesn't seem like there's enough just yet to be able to take care of that Ram Rider. And it's going to be able to get maybe some nasty counter push potential, especially when those Royal Hogs get split in the middle.
A bunch of great calls from you here, Minnie. We're looking at the gameplay here. It is a waiting game. Both players just leaking Elixir. Wallace deciding to just continue to leak Elixir after seeing the arrows as well. Not wanting to make the first play, it seems. I really like what you said, though, about the Sparky. I think another thing to mention is that Ram Rider is a card that takes quite a while to charge up. So if he has Sparky, if Sosa has Sparky, it seems like Wallace is a lot of the time going to be having to play that Ram Rider at the bridge rather than the back to take advantage of the charge. So Sosa, like you said, playing some great mind games here.
Yeah, and as we finish our staring contest, we can use this time to read LeBron James' achievements: NBA Most Valuable Player from 2013, 2012, 2010, NBA Finals MVP, Best NBA Player, ESPY Award, just accolades all around. Royal Hogs at the bridge, no hesitation whatsoever, met with E-barbs in response. And now we have Sparky to deal with these as well.
Sparky on the left, immediate Ram Rider on the right. Skeletons are going to cycle to the Goblin Cage here to deal with that. Sparky one-shots the E-barbs though. Wallace has to set up on defense. And Valkyrie at the bridge, we see a nice dual lane pressure. Pigs as well, distracting the Inferno Tower. Fireball comes out, but is this Sparky going to be able to connect? It is distracted by that Inferno Tower at 1 HP. So Wallace is alive to defend another day, I guess.
Yeah, really, really nice defense from Wallace, all stemmed from that initial Inferno Tower placement that was in range of defending that Sparky. When you're going up against Sparky, right, and this goes to traditional 1v1 whenever you're placing your building, you got to be very aware of it, because placing it in the same lane, sometimes it'll be a little bit too low, and playing it in the opposite lane is just going to make that Sparky go to tower. You know, you got to think about both, if it's going to pull the win condition, and then think about the Sparky behind. So really just great overall decision making there from Wallace. Fireball's going to come down from these Royal Hogs. Zap in an attempt to stun this Inferno Tower. But I feel like Wallace has great control and awareness of how to play the defenses as this match goes on.
You're so right, but the big thing here is Wallace needs to play more defense. He needs to get damage in the tower. He's gotten 0 so far, and that is just all about Sosa's defense and his correct placements. But like you said, we see that Cage placed for the Ram. Magikarp tried the bridge to try and take advantage of the geometry, but great Phoenix, great reaction time from Sosa. Playing that at the bridge, and the Magikarp actually retargets from the Cage after it dies, straight to the Phoenix, only one shot, and that Sparky's just blocking this entire lane.
Yeah, very, very nice Phoenix. We talked about Wallace looking for that Goblin Cage Magikarp lineup, but once that Goblin Cage goes down, he is able to get that Phoenix retarget for it, like you said. And the Zap for Sosa's always been continuously used on these Inferno Towers. Very, very rarely the Spear Goblins. And the Sparky, that's just great positioning on the Goblin Cage to get that lineup. And I mean, now the momentum is all in Sosa's favor.
Sosa's favor indeed. Here comes the Pigs. Arrows at the bridge. Pigs do get hit by the fireball, but it is not to clear them off the board completely. Not to mention the Goblin Brawl on the right side, absolutely demolishing this tower down to around 2,000 HP as well. Sosa is locking in on this defense. What a beautiful Cage once again, taking advantage of that huge Sparky splash radius.
Just great understanding there of how to pull cards with buildings in order to get the best splash value out of them possible. Sparky on the right hand side looking to get a shot. Hello, picked up by a Mighty Miner. And it is going to be the king, the MVP, the greatest of all time. Never give up, never count him out. NBA Rookie of the Year 2004. Pushing it to set number 3. We're going into a 2v2.
Okay, Sosa and LeBron James, you know, doing a great job in this set. I mean, we saw it many, many times over and over again. Sparky plus the Goblin Giant. Wallace was not able to break through. And yeah, like Minnie said, now that Sosa has won this set, we are doing the third best of 3 of best of 3s. We have best of 3 2v2 to find out who is going to be the winner between LeBron James and Monkos. I mean, good luck to both players. But like I said earlier, if it gets to 2v2 set, I have my bets on Wallace and Arden. I feel like the caliber of players is a little bit higher, and I feel like the synergy could be solid, but I see you shaking your head. I mean, what do you think, Minnie?
I mean, betting against LeBron James is just one of the most poor decisions that you can make in your life, and I think you're about to learn exactly why that is after you watch this 2v2 set. There just is nothing that can stop the Brahmable, the freight train that is LeBron James, and I'm just gonna let the gameplay speak for itself, Juicy.
All right, speaking of gameplay, I mean, maybe not gameplay, but I want to talk about the decks here. In the last 2v2 set that we watched, it was just RG dominating. Do you think that is going to be the case here? Or do you think we will see more of the Goblin Giant kind of enter here?
I definitely feel like we're going to be seeing a lot less Goblin Giant than we would expect it to be, especially after seeing its initial run in that Thrill and Titan 2v2. I feel like these players have had a lot more time to kind of test the waters and see what's going to work and what isn't. Definitely expect a lot of RG. It's just so consistent, especially in this 2v2 mode because of the Evos and how just everyone is kind of hyper fixated on cycling back to the Evo RGs, surrounded by maybe a giant skeleton or anything like that. And one of the reasons that I feel like we don't see a lot of Hog, a lot of balloons, just because there's no bans. So there's always going to be that threat of a tornado, which really opens the field up for these heavier decks to take place.
Yeah, I think the other thing to mention here is with 2v2, the elixir that you get in your elixir bar is actually quite significantly lesser than a 1v1 mode. And
not for LeBron James, he regenerates elixir faster.
What that means is that a lot of the Evos that we see are going to be one cycle Evos, because it's extremely hard to cycle back to evolutions like Archers and the Knight. We are going to be hopping the game. That is going to be it for me. Say hello to Rich and Minnie for this cast.
And here we go, Minnie, with my favorite game mode that involves two players, the 2v2.
Well, welcome to greatness is all I can say to you, Rich. You're about to witness the best in the business, Grace 2v2. And right off the bat, it looks like it's going to be Cycle, Mortars, and Miners from Wallace and Ardent Toas. And looking like that's going to be the route for Bob and Sosa to go as well.
I think Golden Knight is interesting here, and you know, we've seen this in 2v2 a little bit. King Tower activation does not succeed in that situation. Golden Knight, I think, gets a little bit of a buff when you get into 2v2 just because of the sheer volume of cards that can be on the board to create those chains. So we'll see if that does pay off here for Bob and Sosa as they are running double Golden Knights.
And I love the recognition there from Bob and Sosa to realize that that Phoenix spawn was going to be enough to keep the opposing Phoenix at bay and gives them a chance to go in on the left-hand lane. They do end up getting that poison. And we're probably going to see a building. Golden Knight comes down to distract. Very nice Mighty Miner, really sneaky to try to get that Morlock on tower. We are going to be seeing a Morlock on tower here. It doesn't seem to be too many distraction troops for Bob and Sosa to pick this Mortar up.
And look at Bob and Sosa right now going almost to zero here. Bob is really not conserving elixir at all despite the elixir slowdown. You see Wallace going down to zero with the NATO just to hold. And now a little reset there from Sosa as you can see him taking the opportunity to get himself into a good spot. So 10 elixir right now for Bob and Sosa, and Wallace and Arden a little bit behind, and they're gonna have to go ahead and just eat this Goblin. And they decided to pick up with the Miners just to be extra careful.
Yeah, lots of mistakes coming out from both sides here at the start. Good Mighty Miner ability, that's one thing that's been consistent across the board for Wallace. And it feels like the only damage that's been on tower has been from those mortars getting 3 shots on tower, and then that last firecracker that got a shot on tower. Once again, you're not picking up the mortar every single time. It just seems like it's really that Achilles heel of the LeBron James team here.
And this is in a situation where Wallace and Arden have not yet gotten a King Tower activation, which is so impactful in 2v2, and you get the double King cannons going to work here. So a little bit surprised in that part of we did see that failed King Tower activation with the NATO earlier on. Gotta admit, I'm still a little surprised here to see the gap that Wallace and Arden continue to open.
Yeah, they're doing their best so far to try to get back into this, and there's no building in Bob and Sosa's deck. They've actually got a very, very similar, they've actually got the exact same deck, so maybe that's a little bit of a miscommunication, and we'll see how that plays out, but they've got the exact same deck here, and it's just nothing really to pick up this mortar time and time again.
Yeah, usually not ideal at all, and that's an Evo to mortar lock too, so that's even more. Miner goes to the back, another Evo mortar shot in here, and that was just really poor game planning out of Team LeBron James. And you know, you talk about 2v2 deck construction overall, Minnie, and you kind of hit the nail on the head. I didn't notice it until you pointed it out, that they are, not only are they running the same deck, but Bob neglected to run Evo Archers in that same deck. So you have two kind of pretty big deck building mistakes out of Bob and Sosa. Number one is not taking advantage of the 16 cards to cover more bases. And then number two, putting a card in that has an Evo and not having it in the Evo slot. Just two kind of very easily avoidable mistakes by Team LeBron James here that made it much too easy for Wallace and Arden.
Yeah, very un-LeBron-like for these two, and I mean that's just that's a simply rookie mistake to be starting out this final duel. So it feels like you got to be a lot more dialed in with something this high of stakes. And I mean it's the opening of the match. If you're at a disadvantage from the start of that 3 elixir timer, then it's not going to be looking good. There were so many misplays, so many double defenses with similar cards, and when you don't have good deck cohesion to kind of steer those misplays away, it's just going to continue snowballing.
Well, one of the interesting things about that matchup too is the failed King Tower activation almost ended up working in the favor of Wallace and Arden a little bit, because they were able to play their archers low in a place where they could defend against the miners, but where suddenly you saw Sosa and Bob making decisions on their poisons that were trying to avoid the King Tower activation more than anything else. And I think that, while of course you want the King Tower activated, I think that Bob and Sosa were playing kind of gun shy, not wanting to get that involved, and that might have affected some of their decision making.
Yeah, you got a great point there. I mean, that's definitely something that changes the dynamics of how those poisons are played. And I mean, more on their poisons, they continuously just had to play miners and golden knights into a mighty miner that didn't end up working out. But for game 2, they decided to switch it up here. It's going to be Lava Hound versus RG.
And I guess just opting not to use a big spell on the archers plus Little Prince, and now Fireball for the Barbs. Royal Giant comes in, and this Little Prince continues to get value. And in 2v2, if a card can get this much value, you are in a world of hurt here. And now the Guardian gets out in front. Royal Giant going to get supported by this beautiful Lightning. And what has been kind of a back and forth battle in 2v2 is an absolute shellacking on the part of Wallace and Arden.
Future King over
Yeah, I don't understand why they didn't defend that Guardian. Bob, I mean, Sosa didn't have the Lava Hound in cycle. There wasn't any room to capitalize there. Only 3 cards had been played. And I mean, now you kind of throw away your advantage, play a Little Prince, which could be useful behind your Lava Hound push, and then set up from the back. So just seems like it's not really working out for LeBron James in this 2v2. This Goblin Cage is going to be great at dealing with the Goblins and the Monk, and they'll be able to counter push off that. I wonder if there's a miner in this deck so they can get off on all these defenses, but right now it's just chaos.
A little surprised not to see the Monk ability pop there with a Baby Dragon. Could have protected the guards, gotten reflection on the tower there. And that Baby Dragon went to the other side and created some havoc. So now maybe saving up for this to go Evo RG in both lanes, although the evolved barbs will completely shut that down. And now Wallace and Arden do have to contend with the evolved barbs, and still 410 on that right-hand side, definitely within spell range, given what they have, but maybe I think that there are times take the foot off the gas, and I don't know if they did it at the exact right time.
Yeah, I mean, and this is going to be the last hurrah push here for Wallace and Arden. That Firecracker from the left does put that into lightning range. They don't need the lightning fireball anymore, so they can't allocate more elixir towards the defense. Lightning gets used on defense, and here we go. We're going to see the all-in here. Snowball and Zap maybe going to come down on these archers, take them out. Evo Knight trying to do his best to tank. Fireball comes down, but it misses. Will we see an ability here from the Little Prince to get the way clear? And it's not going to happen. Just going to need one more lightning.
And this is this thirsty elixir situation. You see the barbs come in high, trying to press the action, recognizing that maybe Wallace and Arden don't have the elixir to make the lightning happen. Finally, they get it, and that's a GG. That's a well played. They certainly made it more exciting than it needed to be, but Wallace and Arden get it done in game number 2 of our final set.
Yeah, truthfully, I'm kind of speechless. My greatest of all time, my GOAT, just lackluster day, you know. Not much can be said of that initial rookie mistake at the start of having the exact same deck. Just no excuse there. And I mean, the second game just felt like the gameplay wasn't there.
Yeah, I mean, we talked about it, right? The archers plus Little Prince that were able to stay alive way too long. Now going full in with the barbs, loon push, not giving yourself a chance at the lightning block to try to stay in this one and keep the game alive. So, you know, we saw some flashes of talent in the other sections, but in 2v2, the place where Sosa and his teammates certainly lacked Bob the Rock. They lacked a little bit here. Let's take a look at the bracket as Wallace and Arden will move in to our top four. They'll be appearing tomorrow alongside Faust and Doom, Surgical Goblin, and Vtor, and they await the victor of our final match of the day, the quarterfinal, which will be coming up after our break. Furkan and Adnan against Lucas and Mohammed Light. This should be a really, really fun one. We'll see if Furkan and Adnan can continue the trend as of late of going for big upsets against the 2022 world champion, but that will have to wait. Lucas and Mo versus Furkan and Adnan coming to you right after this break.
Welcome to the place where dreams come true, where everything you want can be yours, if and only if you're willing to work for them, you're willing to hurt for them, but most of all, you're willing to be first for them. Ha! Look, I'm going straight to the top. I don't know how I would stop, like it or not. I got some goals that I'm hitting. You hear what I'm spitting? It's hot. Look what I got. Whole lot of passion and pain.
The Snapdragon Pro Series powered by Samsung Galaxy is brought to you by Snapdragon Elite Gaming, Samsung Galaxy S23 Ultra, Monster Energy, and DHL.
Welcome back to our final matchup of the day, the last of our quarterfinals. 3 teams have already made their way through to the next stage, to tomorrow, but we have 2 more teams vying for that last spot. Now I'm joined by Juicy J. Juicy, an interesting matchup here where you have 2 of the most popular players for the Turkish scene in particular, with Furkan and alongside trainer Adnan. And then you have a really interesting long-time pair throughout this year, the good friends and talented duo of Lucas and Mohamed Light.
Yeah, and you can't help but realize the David and Goliath situation that Furkan and Adnan are truly in here. It is going to be very difficult for them to, overcome this mountain of an obstacle that is this duo in Lucas and Mo. I wish we had community predictions because I think this would be a crazy 90-10 situation in the predictions here.
Yeah, this is definitely one of those ones that seems pretty heavy in one direction, not to take anything away from Furkan and Adnan, who are both talented and have put up some pretty good performances throughout 2023. But when you're up against Lucas and Mohamed Light, there's very few pairs that I think wouldn't find themselves in that kind of a big deficit. Now, to be fair, as we just saw, we are in a very different world, Juice. We just saw at World Finals how the combination of the Evo meta, the Goblin Giant rage, insanity that we're living in right now makes things a little bit less predictable. Although I do feel like that really applies to set number 1. Set number 2, the Mega Draft, that feels like we're going to see a pretty big shift in one direction.
Yeah, and I can't help but wonder which of these players are going to be playing which set, because Molai, I know Mega Draft is his favorite game mode. He's very confident in his ability in Mega Draft, but he's also, one of the best players, if not the best player in the entire world when it comes to the duel mode. Lucas X Gamer, on the other hand, a 2v2 specialist. He loves 2v2, but I can't help but wonder maybe he just won't even make it to that 2v2 set.
Well, looking at the lineups here, it is going to be Mohamed and Furkan playing in the duels mode, and Mega Draft will be Lucas versus trainer Adnan. And Lucas has expressed some occasional displeasure with Mega Draft, although Lucas is keen to to espouse some displeasure at a variety of things. So I don't know if that necessarily means he's not feeling it in terms of Mega Draft. But that is interesting. We're going to see Mohamed Light in the duel mode, Lucas in the Mega Draft, and then if we get there, of course, both of them in the 2v2. Other side of things, I do like Furkan being in the duel mode. I think he's a little more experienced here than trainer Adnan, a little more successful here than trainer Adnan. It does feel like that gives him the best chance for success.
Yeah, I actually played against trainer Adnan on ladder yesterday, and he absolutely destroyed me with this Elixir Pump Goblin Giant Mini Pekka Cycle deck. So, I mean, I don't think he can make something similar to that in Mega Draft, but I'm wondering maybe we'll see some Goblin Giants early picked here in Mega Draft from Adnan, as he seems to be very comfortable with it.
Let's go ahead and jump into our first set. Furkan and it's supposed to be Furkan and Mohamed. We'll get the overlay fixed up here in just a minute, but it's Furkan top of your screen, Mohamed Light at the bottom, as Mo's coming out running some Evo Skellies here in game number 1.
Evo Skellies, Pigs, EQ at the bottom, and Furkan going to what he knows best, Royal Giant with the Evo Archers variation. No, not Royal Giant Evo Archers. He's got the Goblin Giant, and now it's in Mohamed Light's court, this matchup. Can he defend perfectly throughout this entire match versus the Goblin Giant? If he can, if he has that perfect micro, he might just take this win. But on the other hand, I think Furkan's going to be having the Mega Knight variation here, so it's going to be very difficult for Mo to find a chink in the armor to be able to break through those Mega Knights with these pigs.
Yeah, this is definitely feeling a little bit funky here as we get past the opening moments. Little Prince does call out the Guardian. I believe that's in time. No, not in time, but Guardian tanking anyway. Can this Fish Boy go down? Little Prince will retarget. Goblin Giant gets the Little Prince off the board anyway.
Yeah, that was so fascinating how that Fisherman ended up kind of like going against what Furkan was trying to do, because it died to the Little Prince, and then immediately the Little Prince stayed charged up in 500 damage, and here comes a counter push as well.
And you have to love this style of counter push with what we're looking at. Those Evo Skellies are going to do so much on the left-hand side, and the Rage has to come out to clear them, but damage done. So good split lane push out of Mohamed Light, recognizing he had the advantage of the Evo Skeletons going into 2 different lanes. Piggies get out there, Mega Knight cannot cover both lanes, and that is huge. That might be enough to get the win for Mo here, as he is untouched when we enter into double elixir.
We talked about the balance changing at the very beginning of today, and I think the biggest, most underrated balance change was the Evo Skelly's first attack speed. Because I think before the nerf, those skeletons would not have done what we have just seen, or before the buff rather. But now they're doing a great job of getting that first attack a little bit quicker, and the minions were not enough. And at this point, Mo just has to have some good defense, which, you know, he's the king of that. But I stand corrected. Mega Knight on tower.
Second cannon down, though. This will be good against the Goblin Giant. Little Prince staying alive. Ice Spirit to control. But yeah, we are seeing some of the challenges that arise in this current meta. And it all started with Mohamed Light going full pigs in one lane with a Mega Knight in cycle, which I have to admit I'm a little surprised by.
Yeah, he got a bit of damage, and now he just needs the Earthquake cycle. And I don't think he'll make this a similar mistake ever again. But it's still the big pushes that are the threat here. Mega Knight, Goblin Giant inbound, Rage plus Fireball, taking out the Little Prince. He does get the ability off. He does have a very nice double cannon, so he is going to survive. Once again, he just needs to do that same thing that we've just seen, just 2 or 3 more times to get enough Earthquakes on the board.
And should be back to cannon to pull this Goblin Giant into the double section. Decides not to, going to opt for DPS instead. And now Earthquake cycle here from Mohamed Light, as he now is going to be 1 Earthquake away from the win. I believe, not quite actually, need that log. Log will come in, and that's GG. That's well played. And Mohamed Light just gave you a master class, folks, in how to stop this Goblin Giant Sparky deck. But it all came from the really opportune play, and it started just before this. The Evo Skellies controlling in the middle, Mohamed Light recognizing they were splitting the lanes, and forcing Furkan into a very difficult decision.
Yeah, and that decision was, which lane are you going to drop that Mega Knight down? He played it on the right side, thinking the minions were enough, but those Evo Skellies locking on the tower, multiplying very quickly. And the Rage, it wasn't even enough elixir for the Rage right away, which is what allowed those skeletons to really shred everything down.
So this got to feel really rough for Furkan and Adnan. You go with what is hopefully the guaranteed win in a matchup that it should have had some good opportunity to really break through, and you don't get it. You give up the early damage, fall way behind, and now you're playing without your Goblin Giant, without your Mega Knight, without your Rage, without. Are there any bright spots moving forward here after that first game?
You know, it's tough to say, because even the Evo Archers, the best Evo, was used by Furkan in this match. I think, like you said, he was hoping to use the best deck in the meta and get a quick win off Mo, and then maybe get a lucky 1 or 2 match after that. But having Mo with a Goblin Giant of his own now versus Furkan, who's kind of left hanging, it's going to be very difficult for him to win this game number 2.
I think the one big thing for Furkan is he does still have Little Prince, does still have Log, so still has some key features. Little Prince in particular maybe being the most important one out of that. And it's also, you're running Fireball Mega Knight against Royal Hogs and taking the L. That's a rough one.
Yeah, I mean, Fireball and Mega Knight, one of the best counters to the Royal Hogs, but Mo Light's just able to convert that great defense to that split lane counter push, and that's what you have to do when you're versus a big splash damage deck like that. You know, he had those splash damage cards, but it's still super hard to deal with those split pigs when you don't have a building to bring them all back together. And Mo Light did a great job of realizing that and then taking the opportunity in every moment. Thinking about this game number 2, you know, we've talked about Furkan's what he has less. He's got that Little Prince, he's got that Log. Maybe he'll use some Minor Poison or some Hog Earthquake in a cycle deck to try to control a very expected Goblin Giant from Mohamed Light. But I feel like it's going to be hard to do. It always is, especially in this meta. Oh, wow.
And this looks like a replay of the previous game
Doing it for the fans.
that we're looking at here. So hopefully we'll get the correct game up here in a moment. But someone definitely pressed view on the replay, so we'll be back up with the other one here in a second. So I am curious here. Do you really believe that Mo goes Goblin Giant Sparky here in game number 2, or does Mohamed Light kind of does he go for a counter snipe here, right? We know that Mo, and I'm wondering if Jebus is working with him here, that they like to cook pretty heavy and probably expecting a snipe to Goblin Giant. And here we go. And look, Mohamed Light going to RG Bowler rather than a Goblin Giant deck.
Yeah, RG Mirror matchup's fascinating, but like we talked about, Furkan has that little Prince as an option, but it's not stopping Mo at all from breaking through in the first half of this match, taking some nice damage. And I mean, the Bowler, I think, is the big thing in Mo's deck. Like you said, Bowler, a counter snipe to this RG deck in a way, doing a great job of controlling the little Prince.
Has the Fisherman for the Royal Giant as well. Phoenix for Phoenix. Both players with the Electro Spirit. Log out for Mo, so he's playing Barb Barrel here. Furkan gets around a little bit faster. Is there any real way for him to take advantage of that slightly quicker cycle?
I think it's very possible, especially with the Little Prince 3-card cycle. He needs to get a Little Prince in the back, an RG, and then another RG. But maybe he doesn't need to do that. And look at that. He's gotten so much damage already in the double elixir time here, taking this tower down to 1766 already. But we see Mo trying to counter push Boulder Bridge. Will we see the RG? No. No RG. I think that was a good restraint, though. If he did RG into that lightning, it would have been a pretty tough spot for him.
And now Mohamed Light setting up behind his King Tower. Furkan going to go Royal Ghost opposite lane to begin applying pressure, as Mo is really starting to stack the left-hand lane. Phoenix for Phoenix, Electro Spirit. The Lightning, though, will be the winner out of that one and take the Phoenix and the Egg off the board. Royal Giant should get knocked back by a log. No, does take the shot. So 1814 to 1766. Both players back to classic Royal Giant. Evo's now out of cycle.
Yeah, I think this Ghost is getting some decent value for Furkan as well. Mo Light not having a great way to counter other than the Barbarian Barrel, and in this situation forces out a Fisherman plus a Bowler, but the Little Prince with the Ghost tanking does a good job of cleaning all of that up. Phoenix locking on left side, he's opting to take that damage because here comes a Royal Giant.
And a great pre-log there out of Furkan to clear the Goblins off the board, and Mohamed Light certainly getting out-cycled a little bit, and that Phoenix, as it respawns, getting a lot of value as well. Phoenix still on the board, though, for Mohamed Light. Royal Giant connects. Electro Spirit takes the Skellies off the board. Mo has to Phoenix to stop this Royal Ghost, but Mohamed Light now getting that down into lightning range. 288 is the mark. Can Mohamed Light defend against this Royal Giant push? Doesn't have to. Gets the lightning on tower. GG, well played. 2-0 for the 2022 World Champ.
A beautiful match. Let's look at the replays here. We saw this Bowler not get a lot of value from Mo, and it looked like Furkan was in the driver's seat after this pre-log, but I think the counter push was the most important thing. Furkan actually missed the lightning. He hit the Royal Giant, and he hit another unit that was in that push, but he did not hit the Phoenix. And not hitting that Phoenix allowed the Phoenix to tank for the RG just a little bit longer, which allowed such a massive connection.
So clean 2-0 here in our opening set, the 1v1 duel mode, and now it all comes down to Adnan. Can he outdraft Lucas? Can Lucas instead find a way to paint Adnan into a corner here in this matchup? And we've seen a lot of interesting choices here in duel mode. It does seem that Lucas maybe thinks a bit further ahead. It feels like the one thing we've been seeing players struggle with a lot throughout these drafts, Juicy, is that they really are thinking very linearly rather than starting to think horizontally, starting to think fractally, right? Because these drafts can go so many different directions. We saw the Goblin Barrel outdraft in the last moment. It's come down to sneaky moves in the last card a couple of times today.
Yeah, and I think, like you said, they're not thinking the big picture enough. A lot of the time in Mega Draft, you need to make sure that you're kind of covering all your bases when it comes to countering every win condition on the board. But instead, we've seen more picks based on synergy and countering your opponent's card in the moment rather than being careful versus the last pick surprise win condition.
And we're going to say goodbye to Juicy and bring Mini on here for this Mega Draft matchup. And you see Lucas going with the opening Poison pick against the now Log and Dart Goblin. And Lucas here with the Monk and the Skeleton. And so you have the Monk, nice little counter there to the Dart Goblin Mini, but also you have to be wary about that cheeky King Tower activation that Adnan can pull off with the Log.
Absolutely, and I feel like this deck that Adnan is constructing, it's very could definitely go the bait route, but could definitely go with Royal Hogs or Hog Rider as a surprise factor as well. Maybe even taking Goblin Barrel Hog Rider just to prevent Lucas from countering the Hog Rider and fixating on the Goblin Barrel, and then maybe getting a double win con like that. But so far, Lucas is playing it very, very passively, has a great deck composition so far, and Adnan still has.
Very interesting. Very fast cycle. Lucas does still have Royal Giant as an option. It's Pigs for Adnan here, meaning that Lucas does need to find some splash damage. We have the Dark Prince, Royal Ghost, both on the board and available. Also, a Flying Machine pick wouldn't necessarily be bad at some point for Lucas here, with Lightning being the big spell option available for Adnan. Opts to go Ghost.
Very good call there from Lucas. Definitely makes much more sense, especially if he plans to go RG. Could go RG with the Ghost in front, but there's no Fisherman here, and Adnan does have a Mighty Miner, so that's immediately a red flag for Lucas to play into. Does end up taking the Battle Ram.
And so does this lead to, there you go, a Cage pick out of Adnan. And now Lucas has the second to last pick here. He could try to go with something that he can abuse, and there you go. The Flying Machine, great call, as he's gone with this more bridge spam deck. Gets a bridge spam element that Adnan is going to have a lot of trouble trying to get to.
Yeah, a very nice call from you with that Flying Machine. Just really not enough in Adnan's deck to deal with that. Does end up going with the Hunter, but we know how overwhelming that can be, especially when there's other troops on top of that Hunter. Hunter is also one of those troops that does get reflected by Monk, so definitely a very smart pick there from Lucas.
Ghost goes right into the Mighty Miner, and Lucas playing a defensive Battle Ram. It's going to befuddle this Mighty Miner a little bit. The Electro Spirit to stun it. Easy Cage call from Adnan. That now Lucas, the big question is how many of these can he stack? Ghost not in cycle, has to go Skellies to get the Ghost back into his hand. And now does the bridge spam begin for Lucas?
Yeah, no Ghost in cycle, but also no Goblin Cage in cycle for the back foot of that. And that's a lot more damage than you want to be taking at the start from a single battle.
And Lucas will opt to take the Hunter shot on the right-hand side. Both towers for Lucas down to about 2,500 and change, but the big damage done to trainer Adnan's right-hand tower. 1904 remaining. Over $1,000 pilfered so far by the Battle Ram that connected.
Over $1,000 pilfered. That's a very nice phrase.
Thank you. I've done this before.
Yeah, this seems like you got some traction. You should do this more often.
And here we go. Monk plus the Flying Machine. Monk does get in range. Lots of reflection. Flying Machine will take the Cannon Cart off the board. Hunter has to come out for some control. And now Mighty Miner going to get in front of the Dark Goblin. And you have the Mighty Miner and the Dark Goblin both on the board here, but the ability to control this very inexpensively and create counter pressure is going to really serve Lucas. As the Battle Ram goes to the left-hand side, the Ghost goes to the right-hand side, forcing the Cage out. More damage in for the only player to win 2 monthly finals without a coach.
Piggy's coming in on the right-hand side. No Bar Barrel in cycle. Ghost Flying Machine are going to be enough to prevent the majority of that damage. Ghost does get taken out. That's a very, very nice interaction there for Adnan. He's going to counter this with a Mighty Miner and then build. He doesn't have any response for the Monk. That doesn't get shredded. Everything gets reflected and the Mighty Miner gets pushed back.
We also have not seen the Poison get involved pretty much at all yet, Minnie. And I mean, you kind of understand why, but he's relying primarily on troop play here. Do you anticipate, when do you anticipate, if at all, do you think that, well, there we go, finally Poison comes out to win this bridge fight.
Yeah, you called it there. No poison all up until the last 10 seconds of regular match time. But we'll see a King Tower activation here. No, will not opt to not eat that damage. Feels like if he is able to get that activation, he could be doing a lot more with it. Bar Barrel Royal Ghost gonna come down here. Spirit makes it so those piggies die in 2 shots with that Spirit to complement as well. And such a quick cycle there, especially with that Monk already being able to play another Royal Ghost.
And that was almost a really nice bar barrel, but the Flying Machine goes down anyway. And the aggressive pushes here out of Adnan, kind of recognizing that he's going to get damage every time he throws in those Royal Hogs. And now suddenly, with 1 minute and 13 seconds left, Adnan has taken the lead by a little under 300 HP.
Yeah, this push is going to be problematic, though. There's going to be a reflection here to damage the cannon card. Cage does come down very well placed there, and a very nicely placed Hunter as well, so really clean micro there from Adnan to deal with all that.
And once again, Electro Spirit plus Bar Barrel plus Ghost, and he still eats damage, 994 to 1319. Adnan in the lead, 45 seconds left. Lucas does have poison. Does he opt to get poison value here at some point? Cage high, Dark Goblin does give the value, but Lucas opting to, and there you go. Does get the poison in. Ghost not in cycle for this next potential Pigs push. Flying Machine down low. Lucas has to be very careful here as he is just 34 HP ahead with 20 seconds left. And Adnan not putting to the pedal of the metal yet. Ghost up high, Electro Spirit up high. This feels like a dangerous opening.
Yep, he's going to go for the last push right here. Log Piggies. There's not going to be enough elixir for a poison to come down. Watch out for the battle ram. Does require something to come down.
Whoa! And just barely able to get the poison. Adnan trying to be the one who gets the last word, but it's Lucas instead who flips the script and just barely squeaks by with the Game 1 win.
Yeah. So again, felt like maybe Adnan needed to cycle that log a little bit quicker to get 2 down at the end, especially considering that he had that Mighty Miner down for the 3-card cycle. Especially around here, we see a Hunter played on the Flying Machine. Just great control from Lucas overall, and there we go. The first log came down, and that's a Dark Goblin. He was able to play a Spirit first on top of that Battle Ram and try to cycle just a tad bit quicker. Maybe would have been a different story there.
Well, now it's match point potential here for Lucas and Mohamed Light. We haven't had a lot of quick ones today, but this one could go with a clean 4-0 with some good drafting and good play by Lucas. And it really felt like both players midway through, and that's, I think, one of my favorite parts about watching Mega Draft, is it really does feel like midway through both players began to figure out the macro of this matchup, and maybe it happened a little bit too late for Adnan to take advantage of it.
Yeah, it was consistent from Lucas throughout, and like you said, maybe just a little bit too late. Throughout single elixir, we saw Lucas in control with that initial battle ram that got the first couple, got 1,000 damage with just the first one. So it just comes down to those initial mistakes, right? We talk about the high stakes, high caliber, and the lack of margins in these top tier games. Just pressuring on the left lane, got a little bit of damage there, forced a Ghost out on the left-hand side, needs to answer that, and then the battle ram just goes completely free on the right.
Yeah, and that's a very nice sequence overall. So now it's Adnan back against the wall, and again, it seemed like he was playing catch up here a little bit. I think that, there's one of the things about Mega Draft I really enjoy is how much it requires quick processing, both getting that 10,000 foot view of the draft board very fast to make sure that you really understand what you have to cover and what your opponent might be moving towards, right? If you've played Mega Draft enough, you've had your opponent steal your win condition. You've had your opponent try to draft in ways where you don't have counters to key cards like we saw here with this Flying Machine. But the other part of it too is how quickly do you process the key interactions for you in that matchup, right? How quickly do you figure out the way your opponent, the one or two ways your opponent can win, and the one or two ways that you can win? And we saw Lucas get there just a little bit faster. So with our final Mega Draft potentially coming up here in just a moment, we'll see if Adnan can do it more quickly.
Yeah, you talk about figuring out those specific interactions. We saw that with Lucas figuring out that, okay, Bar Barrel, Ghost, Electro Spirit makes it so that the Ghost only needs to hit the piggies twice. That's very influential, because if you don't play the Electro Spirit, you're like, maybe I want to save this one elixir to get back to my battle ram just one elixir quicker. That's a ton of more damage that you're receiving on the back foot. But these pros, they're experienced with these. You know, that interaction is one that Lucas plays a lot, especially when you're playing Royal Giant, Ghost, Electro Spirit, Bar Barrel. So definitely knew how to take care of those there. And as we come into game 2, we'll see what these guys favor. We already know that Lucas likes to cycle, and I'm not one to shy away from cycle either.
And looks like we're going to take a short break between these games, so we'll be back in just a moment with game number 2 of our Mega Draft matchup.
Welcome to the place where dreams come true, where everything you want can be yours, if and only if you're willing to work for them.
The Snapdragon Pro Series powered by Samsung Galaxy is brought to you by Snapdragon Elite Gaming, Samsung Galaxy S23 Ultra, Monster Energy, and DHL.
And we are back, and you see we have Juicy J here, our sideline reporter, with a little update on our final matchup here.
This just in. Trainer Adnan and his team have forfeited the match for unknown circumstances. Maybe they are just sick of playing against the former world champion Muhammad Lights. and the 2v2 specialist, Lucas X Gamer. But 2-0 sweep to a forfeit here.
Yeah, I mean, we can call it a 3-0 with a asterisk. I don't really know. I've seen teams not show up in small competitions, things like that. I have never seen a team with a chance of going from $500 to $1,000 just say whatever and walk away at this stage in a competition. Thoughts?
I mean, first of all, hearing Mo be a former world champion threw me off my game. That was just very, very perplexing in itself. But more on the issue at hand, I don't really know. It's unknown circumstances, like we said. I don't know if maybe they got a bus to catch, or they're just tired of playing against Mo and Lucas. They are like 0-3, so maybe they're just trying to, maybe Adnan's mom's calling him for dinner time, and he just gotta go. I have no idea, but it just feels like you should play until the very end, especially when there's a chance it's Mega Draft. You basically dictate what happens. But I don't know. Who am I? I'm just a LeBron James fan. So
Okay.
Well, let's go take a look at the bracket now that we do have our 4 teams moving on to tomorrow, as that has been solidified. So we're going to have our first semifinal matchup tomorrow. Faust and Doom, they will face off against Surgical Goblin and Vtor. Our second semifinal, Wallace and Arden Toas go up against Wallace's former teammate in Lucas and the 2022 world champion Mohamed Light. So a lot of firepower. Every single player here has been a world finalist, multiple world finalists from this year, a couple world champions in the mix. Nothing but killers left as we get closer to our grand championship. First semifinal will kick off tomorrow at 8:15 Central European time. I believe that's at 11 a.m. Central U.S. time, noon Eastern. And then our second matchup will take place right after that. And as soon as that's completed, we will move on to our grand final. Same format, same place. So if you haven't yet, go ahead, subscribe to this channel on YouTube. Follow us on Twitch. Make sure that you have notifications on, so if you don't see us inside the app, if you don't remember to show up, that you don't have to, that you get that information and you make sure that you are here for the big one. Of course, easy way to do that, follow us on social media at ESL Mobile, at ESL_mobile on Instagram. Join the Discord, discord.gg/Snapdragon Pro Series, because this is the era of everyone. You can get on the action for Clash Royale and other mobile games beyond and have all those opportunities to compete just like the guys that you're seeing here. Final thoughts on the day. Minnie, I'll start with you.
I think it was a great run today of competition. Mega Draft was really just showing how some players, especially Thrill, holding up his Mega Draft title. Great gameplay overall. I'm excited for tomorrow. Shame that LeBron James won't be back, but I think I'll live.
Juicy, predictions for tomorrow's grand final.
Predictions on tomorrow's grand final. I gotta go with Team Mo Light. Team Mo Light versus maybe Wallace and Arden, potentially.
Well, that will definitely happen in our second semifinal, so we'll see who ends up being the champion. Only one way to find out. That's right here tomorrow for the conclusion. For Juicy J, for Minnie, I'm Rich Slayton. This has been the Snapdragon Pro Series. We'll see you for our final in just under a day.
Got the time, put me in, coach. I've been going hard, time to let it show. Everything raw, give it to me now. Let me have the spot, man, it's going down. Gotta get it here, I don't wanna wait. Take what I want, then I go train. Gotta get a win, I won't lose the game. This is my year, I ain't gonna break. Strap in, cause it's gonna be a long ride. Working on me every single day and night. There comes a time when your worlds will collide. If it's holding you back, push it right to the side.
On another level, I will never settle. Mind over matter, get the gold medal. On another level, I will never settle. Mind over matter, get the gold medal.
Ain't got no time for no fear. I work too hard to get here. Ain't got no time for no fear. I work too hard to get here.
level, I will never settle. Mind over matter, get the gold medal. On another level, I will never settle. Mind over matter, get the gold medal. On another level, I will never settle. Mind over matter, get the gold medal. On another level, I will never settle. Mind over matter, get the gold medal.
Ain't got no time for no fear. I work too hard to get here. Ain't got no time for no fear.
The Snapdragon Pro Series powered by Samsung Galaxy is brought to you by Snapdragon Elite Gaming, Samsung Galaxy S23 Ultra, Monster Energy, and DHL.
I gotta get it, I'm on the mission, snap any minute, casually winning. Stop tripping on me, stop dissing on me. Yeah, I got a dream, can't take it from me. My fire's burning, I'm always learning. Tell me where to go, man, I'm on a journey. Yeah, I can't explain it, I get excited. Keep it 300, King Leonidas. Strap in, cause it's gonna be a long ride. Working on me every single day and night. There comes a time when your worlds will collide. If it's holding you back, push it right to the side. Ain't got no time for no fear. I work too hard to get here. Ain't got no time for no fear. I work too hard to get here. I don't got the time, put me in, coach. I've been going hard, time to let it show. Everything raw, give it to me now. Let me have the spot, man, it's going down. Gotta get it here, I don't wanna wait. Take what I want, then I go train. Gotta get a win, I won't lose the game. This is my year, I ain't gonna break. Strap in, cause it's gonna be a long ride. Working on me every single day and night. There comes a time when your worlds will collide. If it's holding you back, push it right to the side.
On another level, I will never settle. Mind over matter, get the gold medal. On another level, I will never settle. Mind over matter, get the gold medal.
Ain't got no time for no fear. I work too hard to get here. Ain't got no time for no fear. I work too hard to get here.
On another level, I will never settle. Mind over matter, get the gold medal. On another level, I will never settle. Mind over matter, get the gold medal. On another level, I will never settle. Mind over matter, get the gold medal. On another level, I will never settle. Mind over matter, get the gold medal.
Ain't got no time for no fear. I work too hard to get here. Ain't got no time for no fear. I work too hard to get here. Ain't got no time for no fear. I work too hard to get here. Ain't got no time for no fear. I work too hard to get here.
Welcome to the place where dreams come true, where everything you want can be yours, if and only if you're willing to work for them, you're willing to hurt for them, but most of all, you're willing to be first for them. Ha! Look, I'm going straight to the top. I don't know how I would stop, like it or not. I got some goals that I'm hitting. You hear what I'm spitting? It's hot. Look what I got. Whole lot of passion and pain. The road to success is insane. Stay out my lane, cause I'm on a mission. I'm getting what stands in my way. Yeah, I'm a beast. I wouldn't play with me, baby. The way that I'm training is crazy, and I do it daily. You wanna talk about drive? I got more drive than Mercedes. I never been lazy. I'm in the room, it's a red alert. You wanna compete? Well, get better first. I got 10 toes in the dirt. Push through the hurt just to show them my worth. I'm the best. Yeah, I'm the best. I never stress. I know what's next. I'm who they test, like we playing chess. But I'm unimpressed, so now let me flex. Ha, yeah, I'ma work through the struggle and hurt, cause I know my worth, and I gotta be first. Ha, yeah, I gotta be first. Look, I don't want anyone's sympathy. I understand what is meant for me. I give my focus and energy. If it's meant to be, then it's meant to be. But mentally, I'm undefeated. They hear that and say I'm conceited. Like there's no reason. Like I don't beat them and come back again just to teach them that when you work under pressure, you reach higher measures. They'll try and bring you down, but you cannot let them and only get better and focus on cheddar. Eye on the prize and you'll become a legend. Like, when I'm in the room, it's a red alert. You want to compete, well, get better first. I got 10 toes in the dirt. Push through the hurt just to show them my work. I'm the best. Yeah, I'm the best. I never stress. I know what's next. I'm who they test. Like we playing chess. But I'm unimpressed. So now let me flex. Yeah, I'ma work through the struggle and hurt. Cause I know my worth. And I gotta be first. Yeah, I gotta be first. They don't know what's gotten into me. How'd I turn pain into energy? Through all the struggle and hurt, remember my worth, and that's why I gotta be first.